The deafening explosion echoed through the sky, ripping apart the stillness of the air. The Long Clan warriors, who had been shouting aggressively just moments ago, suddenly fell silent. Instead, their voices filled with panic and fear as they screamed in terror. "What the hell was that?" they cried out, their eyes frantic as they looked around, trying to locate the source of the sudden destruction. Before the enemy could even recover, Jang Uk, his face as cold and unmoving as a statue, slowly muttered, "The fireworks have begun." His deep voice cut through the chaos like a death sentence for the unfortunate Long Clan warriors. A moment later, the dust began to clear, revealing a terrifying sight. The bodies of the Long Clan lay scattered across the ground, their blood staining the earth. The human soldiers standing behind them were in shock, eyes wide and mouths agape, unable to speak. What kind of skill was that? One of them stammered, his voice trembling. Did he just kill that dragon? The surviving Long Clan members were furious, their blood boiling as they screamed in madness. What just happened? They roared, full of rage. What skill did Jang Uk use? Fear and hatred mixed in their eyes, but no one had an answer. Before they could even recover from the horrifying attack, the same deadly red light suddenly flared up again, emitting a cold, menacing aura that made their hair stand on end. Once again, a wave of terror swept over the entire Dragon Clan. They looked at each other in panic, their faces twisted in fear. Before they could say a word, a series of deafening explosions rang out, ripping through the air. This time, the Dragon Clan couldn't react in time. They couldn't escape. They were torn apart, shattered into pieces, with flesh flying everywhere and fresh blood staining the ground. The horrifying scene was so grotesque that it was impossible to look directly at it. The terrifying domino effect continued as the Dragon Clan was blown into a long line, like a series of falling dominoes. No one could withstand the destructive power of that red light. Those Dragon Clan members who were still behind, witnessing the gruesome scene, were filled with pure terror and fled in all directions. "No hurry, run!" they screamed in desperation. "Monster! He's a monster." To them now, Jang Uk was no different than a bloodthirsty monster, bringing nothing but death and destruction. But it was useless to run. The moment they finished speaking, they became the next victims of the horrific explosion. That deadly red light seemed to have a mind of its own, chasing down those who tried to flee, not waiting for anyone. Once again, the sky-shattering blasts tore through the air. The ground shook. The entire space was bathed in a fiery red glow, with dust and smoke filling the air, obscuring everything. The desperate screams of the Long tribe echoed everywhere, but they were quickly drowned out by deafening explosions. Amid the chaos, a blinding golden light suddenly erupted from Jang Uk. His figure was surrounded by a mystical glow, and energy surged within him. The young man had broken through and leveled up. Jang Uk was stunned. He could feel the power rising within his body. "I can't believe I just leveled up twice," Jang Uk murmured, still in shock. Jun, who was standing nearby, wiped the sweat from his brow as he watched this unfold. "I never imagined Colonel could level up this quickly," he muttered, his voice trembling. The old man Jang Qian also shivered, unable to believe what he was seeing. Could he be about to become a divine general? The thought struck him like a cold chill, and fear gripped his heart. The terrifying explosions finally began to fade, and the smoke slowly cleared, revealing a scene of devastation, death. Bodies of the Long tribe were scattered everywhere, with no one left standing. Jang Uk's destructive power had wiped out all the resistance. But amidst the desolation in the distance, a group of Long tribe survivors could still be seen. One of them, a support officer, raised a staff that emitted a strange light. The glow from the staff was powerful and eerie, carrying with it a dark energy that made one's hair stand on end. It seems like this might be the leader of the Long tribe, and he's preparing to launch a counterattack, someone observed. Right at this moment, Jang Uk sensed something was off. It was as if a dangerous presence was creeping in, slowly building up. Something didn't feel right. The eyes of the Dragon tribe member remained cold and indifferent, showing no fear or pain. Even as his army was being slaughtered, his expression stayed unnervingly calm. It did make sense. It was as if there was a hidden plot behind his gaze. The backup forces at the rear of the Asian Dragon Legion have been completely still from the beginning, but now they finally started to move. The staff in his hand struck the ground heavily. As he turned, light radiated from him and a complex magic circle appeared. Suddenly, in the silent sky, a mystical purple light began to swirl, expanding before condensing into a massive vortex, almost like a gateway to another world. From within the purple vortex, a tall, imposing figure slowly emerged. It was a Dragon tribe warrior, clad in sleek black armor, radiating a powerful, dominating aura. He stepped out of the vortex with a cold expression, his sharp eyes scanning the battlefield. What stood out the most were the dragon-like horns on his head, legs, and knees. The system has updated the information about the level 70 Dragon Clan War General. Hearing it, Tuan had gaped in disbelief. "Did you say a level 70 Dragon Clan War General?" Jiang Qian immediately opened his eyes wide, confirming the news. His expression quickly turned grim. That's right, a level 70 Dragon Clan War General. A level 70 Dragon Clan War General is equivalent to a high-level extraordinary ability after the third awakening at level 70 in human beings. The higher the level, the bigger the gap between them. There's a huge difference between level 59 and level 60, and every level after that is even more incredible. By the time they reach level 70 and complete their third awakening, it's a whole new transformation. This applies to humans and other races alike. For the Dragon Clan, level 70 is already considered a war general. From that point on, the Dragon Clan takes a completely different path than humans. 1,000 years ago, the human race fought against the Dragon Clan war generals. Both sides won and lost at different times. It's hard to say whose development path is more correct, but it's clear that the Dragon Clan's war generals are extremely powerful. Logically, there shouldn't be a level 70 Dragon Clan here at Fortress number 6. Neijun's voice grew heavy. Where's the magic circle suppression? Why was a level 70 Dragon Clan allowed to get through? Jiang Qian replied, it seems like the pressure on Fortress number 9 is also pretty intense. The magic circle's energy suppression has weakened, which is giving the Dragon Tribe a chance. This is the only explanation that makes sense. The fortresses from number 1 all the way to the highest each have a position within the battlefield where large amounts of key nodes come together to form a complete magic circle for suppression. Through this magic circle, the maximum level each area can endure is strictly limited. Once the war starts, the magic circle will implement full-scale suppression. By theory, a level 70 character shouldn't be able to appear, but now that one has, it means Fortress number 9 is under massive pressure, which has reduced the energy supply to the magic circle suppression. Jiang Qian immediately activated the magic array and said, I've called for reinforcements from Fortress number 8 through the magic circle, but it might take some time before the top-tier extraordinary abilities arrive to help. Neijun's voice dropped with a sense of hope. The number of skeletons under Rim Jang Uk should be enough to hold them off. The Long Tribe's general appeared and quickly charged toward Rim Jang Uk. Inside the sewer area, it couldn't fly, but its speed on the ground was terrifying. It rushed forward like a sharp arrow, with the ground cracking beneath its feet. The support unit of the Long Tribe at the back wasn't idle either. It activated its skill again, and its staff shot a bright beam of light into the sky. A cluster of purple light appeared, illuminating the entire ground, almost like the sun. Under this light, the undead army quickly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, the battlefield was empty of any undead. This is a ceiling summoning skill. My summoning has been restricted. I can't use it anymore. All the undead forces had been recalled. Rim Jang Uk realized that his summoning ability had been blocked and he couldn't use it anymore. Nanjun was terrified. This is bad. Rim Jang Uk's summoning spell is losing its effect. Jiang Qian was also extremely worried. I'll immediately urge them to send someone over. If the summoner has no summons, then what else is left? The people in the fortress were sweating for Rim Jang Uk. This was a huge problem. As a Necromancer, his most powerful ability was summon creatures, right? Without any summons, how could he fight? This new member of the Dragon Clan looks very strong. I think he's even more powerful than the Dragon Legion we saw earlier. From the energy he gives off, he's probably level 70, right? That's on par with our high-level extraordinary abilities. We should go help Rim Jang Uk. What's the rush? Can't you see that Rim Jang Uk isn't panicking? Right now, the Asian Dragon Legion is almost wiped out with only 2 or 3 cats left. A Dragon Clan general leaped high into the air, swinging his sword down with great force. Rim Jang Uk stood not far away, surrounded by piles of corpses. It was like he was standing in a mountain of bodies with rivers of blood flowing. The bright white glow around him kept rising, and he had already reached level 37. Almost 10,000 warriors of the Long Tribe, all level 50 or higher, had provided him with an enormous amount of experience, causing Rim Jang Uk to jump straight to level 37. His military insignia also changed, shifting from gold to a golden purple hue. Divine General, 0 stars died. The Long Tribe warlord shouted loudly. Below, Rim Jang Uk gripped his Thanatos scythe tightly and watched closely. The skeleton armor on Rim Jang Uk gleamed brightly. At the same time, a faint sound echoed. His skeleton armor shattered into pieces, flying apart. The young man couldn't help but admire the power. Its attack force was indeed incredibly strong. With a swift motion, Rim Jang Uk raised his right hand, pointing his fingers at the warlord of the Long Tribe, who was leaping toward him. A dazzling white light exploded from the tip of his finger. Level 37 Bone Fang skill activated, and a wave of 14E Bone Fangs shot out, instantly forming a sharp bone barrier that blocked the Long Tribe warlord's path. The warlord roared in fury and swung his sword with all his might. A massive burst of power flared brightly as he cut through a large portion of the bone fangs, charging forward and opening up his next path of attack. No skeleton. I'll still kill you. The effect of enhanced troops isn't over yet, and my damage is more than enough. Jang Uk remained unfazed. Soul Flame flickered in his right hand. While it could slice through the bone fangs, it couldn't escape the grasp of the Soul Flame. The Soul Flame from Rim Jang Uk's hand shot toward the Dragon Tribe War General, and a huge burst of fire appeared above his head. Rim Jang Uk thought to himself, even though the general was level 70, he was no match for the Eternal Battlefield monsters. A level 70 Dragon Tribe War General wouldn't be able to endure the agony from the soul, let alone with the Soul Flame boosted by the enhanced troop skill. A roar that shook the heavens and earth echoed, causing the entire space to tremble. The Dragon Tribe War General, his eyes bloodshot and his face twisted with rage, shouted into the night, "I will kill you." He released an overwhelming killing intent that made the air feel suffocating. Rim Jang Uk's Soul Flame was fueled with even more power, blazing fiercely. A huge ball of fire was hurled by the young man, flying at the Dragon Tribe War General at a terrifying speed. The War General screamed in agony as he was hit. He struggled in the sea of flames, desperately trying to put out the fire that was burning through his body. Rim Jang Uk watched him writhe and shook his head in disbelief, muttering to himself, "Stubborn fool." His voice was cold, but then, suddenly his expression changed. His pupils shrank and his whole body tensed. He had seen something that made him freeze in terror. "Die with me!" The Dragon Tribe War General screamed in madness. His voice echoed across the battlefield, carrying a deathly resonance. Rim Jang Uk immediately sensed something was wrong, an overwhelming feeling of danger flooding over him. Rim Jang Uk suddenly recognized that look, the familiar, chilling gaze of a Dragon Tribe War General preparing to sacrifice himself. He was about to self-destruct. Rim Jang Uk's face changed instantly, his pupils shrinking. Without a moment's hesitation, he quickly retreated, watching a white, spherical object hurtling toward him at incredible speed. In that life or death moment, all of Rim Jang Uk's senses were pushed to their limits. He could clearly feel the waves of energy and impending explosion building inside the War General, like a storm ready to unleash. The air around him thickened, heavy, with the forewarning of a catastrophic disaster about to strike. Boom! A deafening explosion ripped through the air, shattering the silence. A massive mushroom cloud spiraled upwards, engulfing the sky in white. The scene was apocalyptic. The ground and sky trembled violently, the world swaying as a terrifying shockwave surged forward, sweeping everything in its path. The fortress, located over 1,000 meters away, shook with a massive rumble, as though it might collapse at any moment. Large rocks tumbled down, and many towering spires exploded, scattering debris everywhere inside the fortress. The 7th level Dragon Tribe War General had self-destructed. Even a heavily fortified fortress miles away was severely damaged. Everyone was left speechless, their eyes wide open in shock. At this moment, Naejun's face had completely darkened. He knew for sure that Rim Jang Uk was doomed. The explosion was so massive that even a level 70 extraordinary abilities human would die from it, unless they were a knight. Rim Jang Uk, though, was only level 37. Despite his immense combat strength, able to take down an entire army and even defeat a level 70 Dragon Clan War General, his biggest weakness was his low level. His life force wasn't stable either. Naejun hadn't been mistaken. Before, he could still sense that Rim Jang Uk's life force was no stronger than that of an ordinary level 37 extraordinary abilities user. Not even at the level of 37th Great Knight, Naejun muttered regretfully, "What a shame. The youngest level 37 War General of the human race just felt like this." Jiang Qian also opened his mouth, but words failed him. After a long pause, he finally spoke, his voice full of sorrow. "It's such a pity. I never thought the enemy would self-destruct. Looks like Rim Jang Uk really pushed him into a corner." The remaining people all lowered their heads, lost in thought. Surely the Long Clan hadn't expected that, even after limiting Rim Jang Uk's summoning abilities, his fighting power would remain just as strong as before. When Rim Jang Uk wasn't using his Asterisk, Enhanced Troops Asterisk ability, and didn't have his undead army, he definitely wouldn't have stood a chance against a level 70 Long Clan warlord. It's just bad timing for him. If he'd been a few seconds later, Rim Jang Uk would have been the one retreating. Everyone felt a bit sorry for him. Yeah, it's such a shame. Look, the light from the self-destructive blast is slowly fading away, and the mushroom cloud is disappearing. A figure suddenly appeared in everyone's line of sight. He was surrounded by a faint bluish-white glow, the familiar skeleton armor. Slowly, he turned around, looking unharmed, not a single strand of hair out of place. People gasped in amazement. Good grief, Rim Jang Uk isn't dead. How did he survive that? His defense skills are ridiculous. No one could believe it. Jang Uk was still alive, even though even a level 60 extraordinary ability shouldn't have been able to withstand something like that. Jang Uk himself was stunned and secretly thought, I only survived thanks to my life-linked summoning talent, Asterisk. He hesitated, then murmured to himself, the explosion's shockwave spread the damage across all my summoned creatures in an instant. Even so, my skeleton army took heavy damage. I need to be more careful next time. If two high-level Long Clan warlords or top-tier demons self-destruct at once, I might not make it out in one piece. All the soldiers in the fortress, especially most of those with extraordinary abilities, turned to look at Jang Uk as if they were welcoming a hero back. They all greeted him in unison with a military salute. Divine General, sir, Divine General, sir. Jang Uk's mind was snapped back from his thoughts, and instantly, he felt the respectful gazes all around him. The purple military insignia he wore seemed to radiate a noble aura. Even though there were no stars on it, the title of Divine General was still Divine General. In the human military system, the Divine General was the highest rank in the Shenxia Empire. The 12 counselors who almost held the empire's political power were not considered as prestigious as the Divine General. When they saw a Divine General, they too would bow in respect. The military was the foundation of the Shenxia Empire, irreplaceable. The rank of Divine General represented both honor and sacrifice. Jang Uk nodded in acknowledgement toward the crowd. With that simple gesture, all the soldiers present felt a mix of fear and deep respect. To them, becoming Divine General was a lifelong goal, and Jang Uk had achieved it at the age of 37. He was a genius, the greatest talent of this era. Seeing that Jang Uk was still alive, the two people who were the happiest were Jun and Jang Qian. From their high-ranking perspective, seeing a human like Jang Uk, a talent of his caliber, was rare. A genius like him might not appear again for 100 years. If he could continue to grow, it would be a blessing for the human race. Jang Uk hadn't lost a single strand of hair and made his way back to the fortress. He approached Jang Qian and bowed respectfully. Master Jang, it's been a long time. Jang Qian laughed heartily. Divine General, it's been a while. I could tell from the beginning that you had extraordinary talent. I never imagined you'd rise to become a Divine General so quickly. Looks like I'll have to start calling you sir from now on. Jang Uk quickly responded, it was just a stroke of luck. I also want to thank you, Master, for presiding over my awakening ceremony. If it had been anyone else, I might have awakened to a different class. Jang Qian smiled, his old face lighting up like a blooming chrysanthemum. Ha ha, not at all, not at all. It's because Divine General has such great potential. I was just the one who led the ceremony for you. Jun stepped forward and spoke up. Enough with the formalities, the battle at our 6th fortress is over. So, Divine General, where do you plan to go next? Jang Uk asked with concern, how are the other fortresses doing? Jang Qian replied seriously, I asked earlier, and everything seems fine. Does General M want to go to another fortress to offer support? Jang Uk ran his fingers through his hair and shook his head. If everything is fine, then I won't steal any more credit. This time, I want to apologize to everyone for taking all the credit. His voice echoed to everyone nearby, and they all shook their heads in unison. How could you say that, General Rim? That's right. The enemy was defeated by General Rim alone, so the credit should go to him. Even though Jang Uk took all the credit, the Asian Dragon Legion was wiped out entirely by him. Everyone else was just watching from the sidelines, not doing anything. Even if the credit was mostly taken by Jang Uk, they barely contributed anything. Maybe a few hundred points of merit, which doesn't really make much of a difference. Besides, Jang Uk already handled all their work for them, so they don't have to risk their lives anymore. That's why no one is blaming him. At that moment, the teleportation talisman flared up, and a knight in armor jumped out from the glowing circle. He was covered in dust, but his fighting spirit was still as strong as ever, clearly having just pulled back from the battlefield. Judging by his aura, he was an advanced, extraordinary abilities user. As soon as the knight emerged from the teleportation talisman, he immediately shouted loudly, "Where is the commander of the dragon tribe?" As soon as he finished speaking, he felt that something was off. He looked around, but he couldn't see any of the Long Tribe's war commanders. The place was too quiet. There were no signs of battle, nothing like what had been reported earlier. Taking a moment to steady himself, he looked around again. A faint cloud of dust hung in the air as if the battle had just ended. He immediately walked over to where Jun was standing. Jun answered his question. The Long Tribe's war commander is dead. The knight paused for a moment, then quickly scanned the area. How did he die? How could he die? You all haven't even reached level 60 yet. How could you have killed a Long Tribe war commander? I've fought one before. I know how strong they are. Jun continued to explain. He self-destructed. Rim Divine General cornered him, and he had no choice but to blow himself up. The senior knight raised an eyebrow. Divine General? The knight looked even more confused. Aren't all the Divine Generals stationed at Fortress 9? When did they come to Fortress 6? But he couldn't bring himself to doubt what Naejun was saying. Following Naejun's gaze, his eyes landed on Rim Jang Uk, whose golden and purple badge stood out clearly. The badge caught his attention immediately. It wasn't a star badge, but it was still a Divine General badge. This was definitely the badge of a Divine General. Without thinking, he immediately saluted Rim Jang Uk. Knight Commander Dong Feng, greetings, Divine General. Dong Feng's rank was a 5-star Lieutenant Colonel, but there was still a considerable gap between him and a Divine General. Rim Jang Uk nodded and said, "Hello, Colonel Dong Feng. Thank you for coming to help." Dong Feng replied loudly, "I'm here on orders." With the Divine General present, that low-ranking Long Clan General isn't a threat at all. He immediately noticed Rim Jang Uk's rank, but something seemed off. Why did the Divine General's energy level only show as level 37? I see, he thought. He must be intentionally hiding his true power to intimidate by appearing weak. At that moment, he subconsciously believed that Rim Jang Uk had used some method to hide his true rank. Level 37 was just a cover. In reality, he could very well be at level 87. Rim Jang Uk exchanged a few words with them, and then, as arranged by Naejun, he went to rest. He still couldn't leave the battlefield of Yuan yet. He had to wait until the battles at the other forts were completely finished. Sitting in the small room, Rim Jang Uk couldn't help but sigh. I can't believe the enemy has a sealing and summoning skill. Looks like this is going to be one of my weaknesses. I should ask my master if there's a way to deal with it. Rim Jang Uk returned to Bai Shen's courtyard and noticed that Baek Yua 1 wasn't there. Only Mang and Ban was present, looking very relaxed. Every time Rim Jang Uk came here, he saw Mang and Ban sitting in the same position, almost as if he had grown roots in that spot. Rim Jang Uk greeted him, "Mang, sir." Mang and Ban responded, "You're back?" Then his eyes suddenly lit up. "How did you become a Divine General?" Rim Jang Uk explained, "I went to Fort 6, wiped out a division of the Asian Dragon Legion, and that's how I became a Divine General." Mang and Ban seemed a bit surprised. "You single-handedly took down over 1,000 soldiers in the Asian Dragon Legion and even made their commander self-destruct." He furrowed his brow, thinking to himself that this kid truly deserved the title of Divine General. "Your teacher went to Fort 9, but he should be coming back soon." Just then, a figure appeared. It was Baek Yua 1. Baek Yua 1's voice rang out, "Kinorim, you're back too?" Bai Shen gasped when he saw Rim Jang Uk's rank. "How did you become a Divine General?" Rim Jang Uk then recounted everything that had happened at Fort 6. Baek Yua 1 laughed, "Kiddo, you got some skills, huh? Taking out an entire squad on your own, then even daring to leave the army and claim all the experience for yourself. But don't feel too bad about it. The human race needs top-tier, god-level experts. For your actions, all I can say is well done. If someone as young as you could become a Divine General, I bet the others would gladly give you the credit, especially since you wiped out a whole squad by yourself." Baek Yua 1 laughed for a moment, then grew serious and said, "You need to remember this. Humanity needs a large number of extraordinary abilities, but we need super god-level experts even more. One of these super god-level experts can match up against 10,000, 50,000, or even 100,000 regular extraordinary abilities. So don't worry about what others think. As long as you're not harming the basic interests of humanity, you can do whatever you want. And if anyone dares to criticize you or talk nonsense, just beat them up. Beat them until even their mother wouldn't recognize them." Rim Jang Uk couldn't help but feel a bit speechless, as if his teacher wasn't being very serious. After that, Rim Jang Uk brought up the issue that was on his mind. "Master, I'm restricted from using summoning magic at Fortress number 6. Is there any way we can counter the sealing magic on summoning skills?" Baek Yua 1 answered without hesitation. "Of course there is, why wouldn't there be? It's not just one type, but your level isn't high enough yet. You'll need to reach at least level 40 after awakening your latent abilities a second time before you can use it. Come, let me show you the way." Bai Shen led Rim Jang Uk to Mo Sing Hai, president of Genesis Academy. "Mr. Baek." Mr. Mo quickly recognized the person who had just arrived using a teleportation talisman. Baek Yua 1 turned to introduce Rim Jang Uk. "This old man here is the president of Genesis Academy, Mo Sing Hai, and he's also Mo Sing Hai's younger brother. At 89th level elder, just a step away from becoming a god-level expert, he's highly likely to be the 11th god-level powerhouse of the Shenxat Empire." As Baek Yua 1 was introducing him, Mo Sing Hai couldn't hide his proud expression, clearly pleased with himself. Turns out he's Mo Sing Hai's younger brother, and he does look a lot like Mo Sing Hai. No wonder he seems so familiar. Mo Sing Hai looked Rim Jang Uk up and down with approval. then said to Baek Yue-won, "Is this your disciple?" Baek Yue-won nodded. "So, what do you think? Not bad, right? If it's not bad, then it's not bad. But you're bringing your disciple here, who's not even a student of Genesis Academy, to openly steal resources from our school. Isn't that a bit too much?" "That's a little unethical," was the reply. Baek Yue-won waved his sleeve. "What do you mean, stealing resources? My disciple is the country's top scorer, a legitimate student of Jing Academy, fully qualified to join your academy. If you don't believe me, you can check it yourself. And with me standing here, you really think you can say he's not qualified to enter Genesis Academy? Everything has to follow the rules. I, Baek Yue-won, have always been someone who follows the rules. I've never made things difficult for anyone," he added. Mok Sing-hai smirked. "Baishen, you come all the way here and still dare to say you've never forced or made things hard for anyone. Even if the qualifications are a bit lacking, would he dare refuse? No matter how Baek Yue-won talks, he still has to follow the rules." Mok Sing-hai then said to Baishen, "Give me your students' information. I need to verify it." Baek Yue-won watched as Mok Sing-hai checked the information and chuckled. "Calm down, don't panic. Old Baek here told you, don't be scared. What could happen, right?" Mok Sing-hai secretly looked down on the situation. "Asterisk, I've been around this long. What kind of storms haven't I weathered? What's so scary that I need to be afraid? Asterisk." But when he checked the information he just gathered, he immediately let out a strange cry. "What? Jang Uk, level 37, with 110,000 contribution points." Mok Sing-hai stared at the data, then looked at Jang Uk in disbelief. "Your name is Jang Uk, the top scorer of the country this year? How did you get to level 37 in just a few months? How have you been training? Why do you have 110,000 contribution points? What did you do? Are you cheating?" Baek Yue-won, standing off to the side, laughed happily. "I told you, calm down. Don't panic." Baek Yue-won interrupted. "What's the big deal? Don't you know who he took as a disciple?" Mok Sing-hai casually replied, "Of course I know. I heard he took on an extraordinary genius. He's only taken one disciple in his entire life, so you know he must be putting everything into training them. In fact, I'm really curious to see this person for myself, see just how much of a genius they really are." Baek Yue-won slapped Jang Uk on the shoulder and then said to Mok Sing-hai, "The old man's disciple is named Hai Jin. She's Jang Uk's older sister." Mok Sing-hai's gaze towards Jang Uk shifted. They were from the same family, sharing blood. The old man broke out in a cold sweat, thinking to himself, if she's already that impressive, her younger brother must be just as formidable. I know well how high the old man's standards are. If he's placing his trust in this person, there's no reason to doubt him. But what's going on with these contribution points? Baek Yue-won whispered, "Hurry up and take out your military badge. Scare him with it." Jang Uk let out a soft "oh," thinking to himself, "Just a moment ago, Baek Yue-won told me to put it away, and now he wants me to take it out." Jang Uk reached out, and a brilliant golden light radiated from his hand. A golden-purple badge floated in front of his chest, glowing so brightly that it was almost blinding. The rich golden-purple color reflected on Mok Sing-hai's face. Seeing the badge, Mok Sing-hai trembled. His eyes widened, and his mouth dropped open so wide that 3 eggs could fit inside. "God, Divine General." Although he was fine, Mok Sing-hai, the Dean of Genesis Academy, was ranked as one of the top extraordinary abilities at level 89, just a step away from godly status. But now this kid, who had only reached level 37, had already been named a Divine General. Could this kid at level 37 really be on the same level as me? That's actually true. Even though he doesn't have any stars yet, Jang Uk is still a Divine General. Essentially, he's already on par with him. If he achieved this on his own, his combat strength must have already surpassed his level, so 110,000 contribution points wouldn't be surprising. Besides, Jang Uk was only at level 37 right now. His future potential could easily outstrip even Mok Sing-hai's. The sense of self-satisfaction he'd had earlier vanished in an instant. Wait a minute, is that? Then he saw the faint rune on the back of Jang Uk's hand again, and another shout escaped his lips, this time even more astonished than before. The primordial rune. This kid survived over 10 days of extreme danger in the eternal trials. The meaning of the primordial rune is crystal clear now. Once you're in the eternal trials, after obtaining the primordial rune, you must protect it for 10 days. During this time, demons and even the dragon clan will certainly come after it. What's more, because of the unique nature of the eternal trials, even Baek Yue-won can't interfere. It's all up to Jang Uk now. Mok Sing-hai's gaze toward Jang Uk had completely changed. Mok Sing-hai cleared his throat softly and said, "According to the rules of the academy, student Jang Uk is indeed eligible to join Genesis Academy. However, as per the requirements of Genesis Academy, student Rim Jang Uk will need to take another test before being fully accepted. Please follow me, student Rim Jang Uk. From that moment on, he had truly placed Rim Jang Uk on equal footing with himself. His tone was much more polite, even formal. In terms of the academy, Mok Sing Hai was the dean and Rim Jang Uk was the junior. But if you looked at it from a military perspective, both of them were divine generals, so their ranks were not that different. Rim Jang Uk showed some respect and said, "Sorry to trouble you, Dean Mo." "Not at all," Mok Sing Hai replied, not at all acting arrogantly. Under his guidance, they officially entered Genesis Academy. The scale of the academy exceeded Rim Jang Uk's expectations. The island itself was already quite large, but the academy was even bigger. The facilities inside were complete, almost on par with Jing Academy. Genesis Academy had a small student body, with only about 300 students in total. Compared to Jing Academy, which had tens of thousands of students, this number was much smaller. Those who were here were either elite students or exceptional talents. As Mo Sing Hai led Rim Jang Uk through the academy, he explained, "Today happens to be the day for a small test at Genesis Academy. They are conducting a minor exam. The 3 major academies of the province hold monthly small tests and 1 large exam each year. If you fail the test, you are directly expelled from the academy." He added, "Moreover, if you fail, you won't be allowed to re-enter for 5 years. Suddenly, Rim Jang Uk's gaze fixed on something, and he said, "That's..." Rim Jang Uk saw someone struggling to face a demon simulation in the test. After observing a little longer, he recognized the person. It was the idiots of Sao. Mo Sing Hai noticed Rim Jang Uk was staring and explained, "Today's small test is about holding your ground for 1 minute in front of an opponent." "Hey, Rim Jang Uk, why don't you give it a try too?" Without hesitation, Rim Jang Uk immediately agreed. If he couldn't even pass a test like this, he wouldn't have the right to enter Genesis Academy. A few people who had seen Rim Jang Uk before in dungeon instances couldn't help but exclaim, "Hey, that's Rim Jang Uk. What's he doing here? Is he trying to join our Genesis Academy? Arrogant's really strong. He cleared the Fire God Palace dungeon all by himself and even set a new record. Ha ha! It's because of him that our Genesis Academy has been the laughingstock of others. A whole bunch of people can't even compare to one person." Rim Jang Uk's reputation here wasn't small, mainly because of his actions in the dungeon instances. His battle record from the battlefield plains hadn't been submitted yet, so they didn't know about his latest heroic achievements. Genesis Academy is on an island, so we don't really have much contact with the outside world. So Sound also saw Rim Jang Uk and frowned, wondering why he was here too. Soon it was Rim Jang Uk's turn. Master Zhu called his name. Master Zhu explained, "Student Rim Jang Uk, you're currently level 37. We will simulate a level 47 demon for you. As long as you can survive for 1 minute against the demon and stay alive, you'll pass the test. Rim Jang Uk, since you're taking the test after enrolling, it might be a bit unfamiliar for you. Don't worry too much about the result, just do your best. There's a good chance you might get injured in the magic circle, but you won't die for real, so you don't need to be afraid." Master Zhu kindly offered a few words of advice. Rim Jang Uk, level 37, was about to face an opponent at level 47. From level 40 and up, the difference in strength between each level becomes significantly larger. Compared to someone at level 31, like So Xiang, facing an opponent at level 41 would be relatively easy. Rim Jang Uk respectfully replied, "Thank you for your concern, Master Zhu. I'll be careful." With that, Rim Jang Uk stepped into the magic circle. The magic circle shifted, and in front of Rim Jang Uk, a demon quickly appeared. The demon blade went deep, with 8 arms, each holding a sword. Rim Jang Uk's arrival also caught the attention of the nearby testing room, where high-level extraordinary abilities were present, much stronger than him. Normally, a new student wouldn't draw their attention, but since Rim Jang Uk had been brought here by Mo Sing Hai, they paid him a little extra notice. "This kid's a bit arrogant, huh? I wonder where his confidence is coming from." Every new student is a little arrogant when they first arrive. After some time, he'll calm down. Yeah, just like that guy So Sound. Didn't his head seem like it was practically in the clouds when he got here? But now that I look at him, he's nothing special. There are a lot of people here who snatched the legendary job. Who knows what made him so special that the principal would personally meet with him? Rim Jang Uk looked at the demon in front of him and instantly recognized it as a level 47 Abyss knife demon. The demon's eyes glowed red, and its sharp teeth bared as it locked its sights on Rim Jang Uk. From outside the magic circle, someone shouted, "It's an Abyss knife demon. That's the toughest demon from the Abyss. He's really unlucky to run into the hardest demons." Rim Jang Uk is done for. Master Zhu shouted. The test begins. The Abyss knife demon is also a relatively tough demon to deal with among the Abyss demons. That's right, its 8 blades are like platinum level weapons with tremendous attack power. They can fight both up close and from a distance. Let's see how Jang Uk handles this. They all knew that Jang Uk had wiped out the palace of the fire god, but they still couldn't believe he had such strong fighting abilities. They were all too arrogant. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they wouldn't believe it. No matter what anyone said, Jang Uk stayed focused on his test. Calmly, he raised his hand and pointed at the head of the Abyss Knife Demon. A burst of white light exploded. Skeleton fangs, cast by Jang Uk, caused 1480 level 37 bone fangs to explode all at once. In the blink of an eye, the Abyss Knife Demon was pierced by a barrage of bone spikes. Without hesitation, Jang Uk stepped out of the magic circle and walked up to Master Zhu, who was still in a daze. Master, I guess that means I've completed the test, right? Master Zhu, still stunned, nodded slowly. Ah yes, you've completed it. The students outside were also stunned, their faces drenched in sweat as they exclaimed, "Kill him instantly, just one move. That's a demon 10 levels stronger than him. How much time did he take? 10 seconds. It's already hard enough for someone to survive 10 seconds, but he killed the demon in less than 10 seconds. In their eyes, Jang Uk's overwhelming strength seemed almost freakish. Everyone was left speechless, unable to say a word. So Seong Ko's eyes narrowed. He had grown stronger, but the gap between him and Jang Uk was widening. His hands clenched tightly, filled with unwillingness, yet he felt powerless. They were no longer on the same level. There was no way to compare. So Seong felt that in his entire life, he would never catch up to Jang Uk. Mo Xinghai had already expected that Jang Uk would pass the test, but he hadn't anticipated that he would use such a swift and powerful method to clear it. He was completely stunned. Student Jang Uk, congratulations on passing the test. From now on, you are a member of Genesis Academy, Mo Xinghai said. Jang Uk bowed respectfully. Thank you, Dean. Mo Xinghai savored the moment. After all, this was a divine general paying respects to him. How could he not enjoy it? Soon, Master Zhu will show you around the academy. I'll head out first. Mo Xinghai gave Jang Uk a nod before turning and leaving. Master Zhu was a bit confused when he saw Mo Xinghai's attitude. Why did it seem like the director's behavior toward Jang Uk was a little odd? It wasn't at all like how he treated other students with strictness. Even when dealing with masters like me at this academy, it felt like they were having an equal conversation. Who exactly is Jang Uk? At night, the sea breeze blew across the island, sweeping through Genesis Academy. The island's barrier filtered out the humidity from the wind, making it feel softer and more pleasant as it brushed against their faces. Even though Jang Uk had grown up in a coastal city, this was the first time he'd seen a starry sky on an island. Baek Yua won, and he sat on the beach, listening to the soothing sound of the waves. Now that Jang Uk had joined Genesis Academy, becoming one of its students, Baek Yua won spoke up. Kinorim, aren't you curious why I let you join Genesis Academy instead of going with your sister to Shangguang Creation Seminary? From start to finish, Jang Uk hadn't said a word of protest. Baek Yua 1 knew very well that at first Jang Uk had wanted to join Shangguang Creation Seminary, mainly because of his sister Hai Jin. But when Baek Yua 1 suggested that he give up Shangguang and come to Genesis Academy instead, Jang Uk had agreed without hesitation. Baek Yua 1 was really curious and eager to know what Jang Uk was thinking. Jang Uk replied calmly, "The master must have a good reason for doing this. I trust that the master wouldn't harm me, so there's no need to ask." You could hear the sincerity in Jang Uk's words. He wasn't someone to speak lightly or casually. Baek Yua 1 then slowly explained, "There's an old man at Genesis Academy who took your sister as his disciple, and she's his only disciple. Once he took her in, he'll put all his effort into nurturing her. All the resources from Shangguang Creation Seminary will go to your sister, and you won't get any of them." Jang Uk nodded, showing he understood. Resources were extremely important. While he could go out and fight for many of them, some resources had to be accumulated over time. Baek Yua 1 continued, "Although I have quite a few resources, they still don't compare to that old man's, especially because there's something at Genesis Academy that's crucial for you. It can significantly improve the chances of advancing your career when you awaken your latent abilities for the third time." Jang Uk asked, "When you advance your career during the third awakening of latent abilities, isn't it necessary to have the elemental divine stone?" Baek Yua 1 chuckled softly. "These two things aren't in conflict. Even if you have the elemental divine stone, the best it can do is increase your chances by half. But with this other thing, your chances will go up by at least 80%. As for what exactly it is, I'm not sure. I only know it's a beam of light located in the center of Genesis Academy. It only opens at a very specific time. This is something your master can't help you with. You'll have to rely on yourself." On this day, stories about Jang Uk spread throughout the academy. During the Eternal Trials, Ling Yi-Jan's team had spent several days with Jang Uk and they had gotten along well. Some people in the team started sharing stories about him, which quickly caused a stir. Students at Genesis Academy gathered late at night, setting up a grill on the beach. Fish, freshly caught from the sea, were being grilled, filling the air with a mouth-watering aroma. Ling Yi-Jan was surrounded by a group of people. Feeling a bit helpless, he could only recount what happened with Jang Uk during the Eternal Trials. Brother Ling, you said you met Jang Uk during the Eternal Trials. Tell us more about him, one of them asked eagerly. Ling Yi-Jan, remembering the overwhelming power of Jang Uk, broke into a cold sweat after a brief pause. He nodded in agreement. All right, I'll tell you what he did during the Eternal Trials. You all know about the level 55 boss called the Great Earth Centipede, right? He asked. The group immediately responded in unison. Yeah, we've heard that boss is insanely powerful. Jang Uk, he fought the great earth-piercing dragon god all by himself. Ling Yi-Jan shivered just thinking about it, his face losing all color. What did you say? He single-handedly defeated the great earth-piercing dragon god. Are you kidding? No one can take down the great earth-piercing dragon god alone. Not even a whole team could do it. You're telling me that at level 30, he beat a world boss that's level 58? I wouldn't believe it even if you paid me. Exactly. At level 30, forget about defeating the great earth-piercing dragon god alone. He wouldn't even be able to take down a world boss of the same level on his own. Even though today he took out someone 10 levels higher than him right away, I still can't believe it. Everyone who was there was a genius, and not just any genius, but the best of the human race. Each one of them thought they were destined to become a god, that they were as good as anyone else, so of course they couldn't accept it. Ling Yi-Jan furrowed his brows and thought to himself, they would never believe that Jang Uk at level 30 had fought the great earth-piercing dragon god alone. How could he explain that? He took a deep breath and calmly tried to explain to them. At first, I thought just like you all. I thought Jang Uk was heading into the Eternal Trials just to die. He had just gotten the primordial rune and was being targeted by demons, who were all focused on protecting him. But in the end, he didn't need any protection. From there, he became the common enemy of both the demons and the dragon tribe. After explaining for a while until his throat was hoarse, these arrogant individuals still refused to believe and sharply rebuffed him. Ling Yi-Jan, you're getting more and more outrageous. He really has the primordial rune and managed to hold on for 10 days? This sounds like something straight out of a myth. The truth was, Jang Uk was just so impressive that when Ling Yi-Jan retold the story, it sounded too far-fetched, almost like a legend. The others took turns speaking, and while they didn't outright accuse Ling Yi-Jan of talking nonsense, they were still being pretty polite. So it wasn't surprising at all that they didn't believe him. Just then, the teleportation talisman lit up, and someone stepped out of it, shouting as they ran. Our Shenixa Empire has a new 37th level Divine General, the youngest Divine General ever. Everyone froze in shock. 37th level? No way. Is this a coincidence? Hey, do you know the name of this Divine General? The person scratched his head and replied, I think his name is Jang Uk. Everyone froze a second time. Jang Uk, it really is him. Divine General, Divine General. Oh my god, no wonder the director personally went to meet him. So that's what's going on. The story of Jang Uk spread everywhere. People on the streets, even while walking, couldn't stop talking about it. Did you hear? The Shenixa Empire just recruited a level 37 Divine General. And at the same time, someone from the Sheng Guang Creation Seminary happened to be at Fortress 6 and brought news from there. The Shenixa Empire now has the youngest level 37 Divine General, enough to take on the Demon King in a one-on-one fight. Do you hear about this? Shenixa Empire. Soon, the whole world knew about Jang Uk's incredible achievements. They learned that the Shenixa Empire had produced a level 37 Divine General, someone who wiped out an entire army, single-handedly defeated a 70th level Dragon Clan War General, forcing the general to self-destruct. What's more, he returned completely unharmed. The Undead Legion was incredibly powerful, but even without it, Jang Uk's abilities alone were extraordinary. In just a few short days, the rumors grew more intense, almost elevating Jang Uk to legendary status. In the Baishen courtyard, Mei and Ban's voice remained calm as ever. Aren't you going to step in and manage this? If this keeps up, Kid Rim is going to be turned into a god by those people. Beg Yua One smiled and said, let them keep bragging. The more outlandish their claims, the better. It's on purpose. And it's not like I don't care, I just changed my approach. Kinnarim, who had suffered at the hands of the Abyss Illusion Demon last time, had been kept at Genesis Academy recently for studies. He basically had no idea about any of this. May and Ban gave him a quick glance and asked, So, someone's pulling the strings behind the scenes, causing all this trouble. Baek Yue-won gave him a cold, sharp look and answered exactly. Someone wants Rim Jang Uk dead. The best way to deal with rumors is to make them so exaggerated that no one believes them. Then the rumor is basically nullified, right? A faint murderous aura radiated from Baek Yue-won. He clenched his fists firmly, his voice steady but filled with determination. Demon-worshipping cult. These filthy rats are crawling out again. If that's the case, then I'll play along with them. The rumors about Rim Jang Uk have been blown completely out of proportion. Some even claim that Rim Jang Uk was strong enough to fight the Demon King. For days, the bragging grew louder and more ridiculous, to the point where it was nearly unbelievable. Some even made up wild stories saying Rim Jang Uk had actually traveled to the deep world to fight the Demon King. Strange stories of all kinds have been spreading across the world, some true, some false, making it difficult for people to tell them apart. Over time, some started to notice that something wasn't quite right. It seemed like there was someone behind the scenes pushing these stories forward. The rumors about Rim Jang Uk grew bigger and bigger until one day they exploded. Most people eventually realized that the stories about him were all lies. In reality, Rim Jang Uk wasn't as powerful as the stories made him out to be. The only truth in all those tales was the part about his professional competition. Everything else had become so mixed up that no one could separate fact from fiction. Most people instinctively assumed the rest of the stories were fake, especially since the 37th level Divine General was already hard to believe in the first place. Inside the library of Genesis Academy, Rim Jang Uk was still deeply focused on his books. He knew exactly what his weaknesses were, so this time he was determined to fill the gaps in his knowledge, especially in the area of the Abyss. Baek Yue-won fully supported Rim Jang Uk's approach. An outstanding extraordinary ability means you must know both yourself and your opponent. Even if Rim Jang Uk hadn't said anything, Baek Yue-won would have suggested this. Now that Rim Jang Uk had taken the initiative, having a disciple like him made Baek Yue-won very happy. Baek Yue-won let Rim Jang Uk read freely in the library, allowing him to stay as long as he wanted, reading until he got bored. After more than 10 days, Rim Jang Uk still hadn't left the Genesis Academy library. There were so many books in the library, and even those about the Abyss world alone filled hundreds of volumes. Rim Jang Uk began to piece together and connect the content in the books, gradually forming a system of knowledge about the Abyss world in his mind. From the information in the books, he was able to understand many more things. The Abyss world was far more brutal than humanity. It was a place where the strong dominated the weak and the victors became kings. Bloodlines, whether lowly or noble, were used to classify the beings into 4 tiers: common demons, elite evil demons, and demon lords. There were also 4 levels based on strength: low-level evil demons, high-level evil demons, peak-level evil demons, and the Demon King. In addition to these, there were special types of evil demons, such as the Abyss Illusion Demon and the Abyssal Fire Spirit Realm. It seemed that the Abyss world was far more complex than he had imagined. Rim Jang Uk scratched his head, feeling overwhelmed by the sheer amount of information. Elite evil demons are equivalent to the legendary extraordinary abilities of humans, he thought, and the Demon Lord is a hidden class extremely powerful. It's like the Crimson Moon demon I met before, an elite evil demon. Its power really surpassed that of other common demons at the same level. Rim Jang Uk was well aware of the evolution process of demons. No matter what type of demon it was, the ultimate goal of their evolution was always to become a Demon King. A Demon King is a god-level expert among humans, but there's a huge difference between evolving from an ordinary demon into a Demon King and evolving from a high-level demon into one. The documents were very clear on this. Demon King Lai Yan evolved from an ordinary demon. The Enchanting Demon King evolves from a high-level demon, and the gap in strength between the two is massive, as is their status. Rim Jang Uk recalled the Enchanting Demon he had faced earlier. No wonder that high-level Enchanting Demon had been so powerful. The fact that it could challenge an ancient Luan made sense. It turned out to be a high-level demon. The Enchanting Demon clan consisted entirely of high-level demons, and the higher their rank, the stronger their demon bloodline became. The power of the Enchanting Demon King ranked among the top 10 strongest Demon Kings in the Abyss. Of the top 10 Demon Kings of the Abyss, humans only recorded 5 of them. The Black Sky Demon King ranked 4th, and it turned out that he was the father of the Black Sky Demon Prince. When Rim Jang Uk saw the Black Sky Demon King, he remembered the Black Sky Demon Prince who had been forced to self-destruct by him. He was shocked to realize that the prince was the Demon King's descendant. Rim Jang Uk closed the book and paused to think. He instinctively felt that the Black Sky Demon Prince wasn't truly dead. Maybe the prince had used a soul mark to revive himself. The method of resurrection through a soul mark, which humans had learned from the demons, allowed for this. Since humans can resurrect, being a descendant of the Demon King, Jang Uk could do it as well. It seemed like a confrontation would be inevitable in the future. If I could kill you once, I could kill you again twice, 3 times, he thought. Jang Uk stood up, placed all the books on the table back on the shelf, and then grabbed a few more books. This time they were related to the Dragon Clan. Once again, Jang Uk immersed himself in the sea of knowledge. I need to learn a lot more to avoid falling into traps like I did with the Abyss Illusion Demon. The chaos outside had nothing to do with him. It was as if Jang Uk had rooted himself in the library, stuffing himself with information. His divine power at level 37 had granted him incredible healing abilities, allowing him to go without food or sleep, constantly full of energy. A month later, the communication device in Jang Uk's hand buzzed, accompanied by a sound alert that startled him. Raising his wrist to check, Jang Uk saw that Singha was calling. He answered the call and asked, "Dean, is something wrong?" On the other end of the communication device, Singha's warm voice came through. "Divine General, sorry to bother you, but could you step outside for a moment?" At that moment, Singha was standing at the entrance of the information hall, drawing the attention of many people. Singha rarely showed up at the academy, and his sudden visit here clearly meant something important was going on. The students at the academy were gossiping, wondering who the dean might be waiting for. Who could possibly make Dean Mo wait? If Dean Mo wanted to find someone, he could just give a command. Who could make him wait like this? Could it be Jang Uk? The students saw Jang Uk step out from the information hall. After a month of meditation, the energy around him had calmed down significantly. He now looked much more composed, no longer radiating the same fierce aura of someone fresh from the battlefield. At that moment, the students realized that Singha had been waiting for Jang Uk. It made sense now. Only Jang Uk could have made the dean personally come all the way here. Who was Jang Uk after all? He was the Divine General, with a rank in the military equal to that of the dean. The students couldn't help but wonder what business the dean had with Jang Uk. For his serious expression, it seemed like something important was going on. After all, the Dragon Clan was causing chaos over at Battlefield Plains, and there had already been multiple conflicts with the human race. Rumor had it that many had died, and it seemed that soon enough, they might all have to head to the battlefield. The crowd kept talking nonstop. Over the past month, the Long Clan had really been acting recklessly. This situation had erupted because they had been holding back for thousands of years. Jang Uk walked up to Singha. "Divine General, is there something you need from me?" Since Singha had addressed him using military terms, Jang Uk responded in kind. It was a matter of protocol, suggesting that they were likely going to discuss something related to the military. A smile spread across Singha's face. "I'm here because I need your help with something, Divine General." "Go ahead." Singha quickly explained. "Recently, there have been some problems at the Long Clan's outpost dungeon near the first subfort. Since the Long Clan returned to the battlefield plains, strange things have been happening at that dungeon." Jang Uk raised an eyebrow. He was very familiar with that dungeon and couldn't imagine what could have gone wrong. He didn't ask any questions and just waited quietly for Singha to continue. Singha went on. "This outpost dungeon was created thousands of years ago. It can be considered a relic left behind by the Long Clan from the Great War of that time. There are many such relics like this throughout the battlefield, some more powerful, others less so, scattered across every corner of the Yuan battlefield. Back then, we didn't pay much attention to them. We assumed they were just remnants of the Long Clan's power. But now, with the Long Clan's return, all these dungeons have changed and turned into teleportation bases for the Long Clan. The Long Tribe's army can use the dungeon to reach anywhere on the battlefield in the Yuan region. We've just realized that the Long Tribe's king deliberately left this dungeon behind years ago. Even after the Long Tribe returned, this dungeon started to have a significant impact. Jang Uk had a bad feeling. Is the casualty count really that high? Singha replied, "Quite a lot. Over 1,000 people are dead." Jang Uk furrowed his brow. Over 1,000 dead is no small number. The previous practitioners weren't afraid of injury. Small cuts or broken limbs didn't scare them. Even serious wounds could be healed. The only thing they couldn't come back from was death. Unless, of course, they left a soul imprint like he did. Jang Uk's eyes flashed with intensity, and his killing intent gradually rose. Why not destroy the dungeon? He knew that a god-level expert had the power to destroy a dungeon, and it shouldn't be difficult for them. Singha said, "By the time we reacted, it was already too late. The Long Tribe used a special method to strengthen the dungeon. It can only be destroyed from within." Jang Uk didn't ask why. Instead, he decisively said, "What do you need me to do?" Singha said, "Enter the Long Clan outpost dungeon. Complete the hellish difficulty challenge and work with the army to destroy it." A murderous intent immediately appeared on Jang Uk's face. "Got it. let's go. The first fortress of Battlefield Plains was covered in the smoke of war. The walls had been damaged a month ago when the Long Clan launched an attack. Although most of the damage had been repaired, there were still places where dried blood could be seen on the walls. Jang Uk and Mok Sing Hai left the first fortress and headed toward the entrance of the Long Clan outpost dungeon. As they approached, they saw a man with a shiny golden badge waiting for them. He had received word that Mok Sing Hai and Jang Uk would be coming and prepared himself to meet them. The leader of the army here was named Xiao Shang. He was a 3-star lieutenant colonel, a holy sword knight who had been promoted to the 3rd rank at level 70. He respectfully bowed to Mok Sing Hai and Jang Uk, showing no arrogance despite Jang Uk's rank. Divine General Xiao Shang reported about 20 days ago a Long Clan army suddenly charged out from the dungeon, cutting down anyone in their way. At that time, there were still many low-level extraordinary abilities outside the dungeon. The Long Clan forces overwhelmed them before they could react, and many of them were killed. This army chased down the low-level extraordinary abilities around the fortress until we arrived. After that, we surrounded the dungeon. The Long Clan army reappeared later, but we were able to hold them back right there. Jang Uk asked, "So, exactly how do you want me to work with you?" Xiao Shang explained his plan. We prepared our team. We'll team up with Divine General to tackle a nightmare difficulty, which is the standard level. At the same time, we've also prepared 4 extraordinary abilities to join you in a hell difficulty. After we clear the dungeon, we'll use the linked scroll to trigger the exit, completely destroying the dungeon. After speaking, Xiao Shang handed over the prepared scroll. Jang Uk took it and carefully examined it. Jang Uk nodded and said, "All right, I understand." Then, as if casually, Jang Uk added, "But I can handle the hell difficulty on my own. They don't need to join." The words hit Xiao Shang like a bolt of lightning, and his expression changed instantly. Divine General, this is a level 35 hell difficulty dungeon," he said, surprised. Mok Sing Hai chuckled and reassured him, "Don't worry, Xiao. Divine General has always handled dungeons by himself. One person is enough." Xiao Shang still wanted to say something, but when he saw the Divine General medal on Jang Uk's shoulder, he hesitated and kept quiet. The difference in their status was too great, and logically, he should follow Jang Uk's orders. After thinking for a moment, Xiao Shang said, "All right then, Divine General. Please be careful. Our other 2 teams will speed up and try to clear the dungeon as quickly as possible." Jang Uk nodded, grabbed the scroll, and walked straight into the dungeon. He thought to himself, "This is still the first time I'm tackling a dungeon that's lower level than mine, Let's see how this dungeon has changed now," he muttered. Without hesitation, Jang Uk coldly selected the hell level difficulty. After seeing Jang Uk's choice, Xiao Shang turned to Mok Sing Hai and asked, Divine General, do you really think Divine General can complete this alone?" Mok Sing Hai smiled and replied, "Don't worry, not only can he do it, but he'll probably finish it faster than anyone else." Xiao Shang seemed a bit skeptical, but since it was already happening, he could only trust Mok Sing Hai's words. "All right," he said with a sigh. After all, he was a Divine General. He probably wouldn't speak without reason. Mok Sing Hai chuckled, clearly excited to watch the show. Jang Uk entered the dungeon, looked around, and muttered, "Back to an old haunt, it really does feel different." The last time he entered this dungeon was a long time ago. Although the dungeon's level had increased, the monster's appearance hadn't changed at all. Jang Uk still clearly remembered how, the first time he entered this dungeon, he had to endure the feeling of being controlled by the monsters. "I remember it very well. Fighting you guys wasn't easy, and the first time was especially tough." The scout technique was activated. Jang Uk wanted to see just how strong the monsters would be after the dungeon enhancement. The mutated dragon tribe warrior, an elite hell-level monster, was level 36 with 20,000 strength, 15,000 agility, 10,000 spirit, and 35,000 physique. Its spear sweep skill was enhanced by the dragon tribe's power, and its physical and elemental damage was reduced by 30% each. Jang Uk looked at the skill info and puffed his cheeks, complaining, "I thought this would be stronger. These stats are really weak." In the Eternal Trials, he had gotten used to seeing monsters with stats over 100,000. The total stats of this monster were only 80,000, which was just too weak. The monster's overall stats didn't even come close to matching the individual attributes of a skeleton warrior. As soon as Jang Uk's thoughts shifted, the entire army of the undead appeared. He had come to the Genesis Academy's library, not just to read, but also to reinforce his undead army. With nearly 35,000 points of physique, these elite monsters weren't particularly strong. Jang Uk's skeleton warriors dealt with them easily. landing a few basic punches and a couple of sword slashes to wipe them out. Jang Uk wasn't even interested in fighting them. The undead army surged forward, glowing with the energy of their state, their movements wild and relentless as they charged ahead. He didn't even need to use his body break skill. The undead army pushed forward so quickly, without stopping for a second, like a massive wave flooding the dungeon. Jang Uk followed behind, practically running the whole way just to keep up. If he didn't, he'd fall behind. The way Jang Uk was clearing this dungeon was enough to scare even legendary-level extraordinary abilities. Who clears a dungeon like this? It was honestly like bullying the monsters. Too fast, too dangerous. Suddenly, Jang Uk froze for a moment. Right then, he saw the familiar city wall. The wall hadn't changed, still looking the same as before, but now there were more monsters on it. Not only were there more monsters, but there were also some unfamiliar faces. Jang Uk could sense something different about them. These weren't ordinary beings. They were true members of the Dragon Clan, soldiers of the Dragon Clan, just like Jang Uk himself. When the Dragon Clan soldiers saw him, they all showed looks of deep hatred. The energy around Jang Uk was heavy with the scent of the Dragon Clan. To the Dragon Clan, that energy meant one thing. Jang Uk was soaked in their blood. They followed orders and entered the dungeon, setting up camp at the hellish difficulty level. The last time, they had unexpectedly ambushed and assassinated the human forces attacking the dungeon, successfully pushing them back and even killing 2 of them. Now Jang Uk dared to come here alone. The Dragon Clan gritted their teeth and shouted angrily. Jang Uk dares to enter the dungeon alone? He's just looking for death. Jang Uk surveyed the area and quickly realized that the Dragon Clan had already set up camp in the dungeon. This was completely unexpected for the Dragon Clan. Indeed, Jang Uk was alone, but his undead army numbered over 6,000. Jang Uk swiftly commanded his undead legion, soldiers, wipe them all out. The moment he gave the order, his undead army charged straight for the main gate. Necromancers unleashed their spells and waves of sea creatures flooded over the walls, covering the entire fortress. The monsters on the walls and the Dragon Clan soldiers were completely overwhelmed by the magic. The Dragon Clan members screamed in terror. Just as their hatred for Jang Uk began to rise, it was quickly erased by the onslaught of magic. On the ground below, there were only the bodies of the Dragon Clan. The once sturdy fortress gate crumbled to pieces in just 10 seconds. The undead army advanced at lightning speed, first clearing the monsters off the walls before entering the city. Any remaining Dragon Clan monsters hiding in the corners were swiftly dealt with by the undead. Just 20 minutes after entering the dungeon, Jang Uk found himself standing right in front of the boss. The boss was familiar, though its level had increased a bit, and its stats had been boosted as well. Other than that, not much had changed. However, Jang Uk quickly noticed something different. Sure enough, there were members of the Dragon Clan here. Behind the boss was an army made up of thousands of Dragon Clan soldiers arranged in a square formation, ready to take on any attackers. With an army like this and a boss to deal with, it was clear that a team of 5 ordinary players wouldn't be able to handle this dungeon. Too bad they ran into Jang Uk. In front of the army stood a Dragon Clan officer wearing armor. He stood tall and serious, his face stern, clearly shocked that Jang Uk had already made it to him after only 20 minutes. The speed was incredible. Nothing in this dungeon had been able to slow Jang Uk down. To the officer, Jang Uk gave off a strong sense of danger. Clenching his teeth, he bitterly muttered, "The dangerous one has arrived." Without wasting a moment, he raised his sword and ordered, "Kill." At his command, the Dragon Clan army charged at Jang Uk, launching a full-scale attack. Jang Uk shot a cold, piercing look and clicked his tongue. No wonder they needed me for the hell difficulty, he thought. So that's why there are so many Dragon Clan soldiers hiding in this dungeon. As the guards of the boss's outpost, they immediately followed orders and acted together, coordinating with the army to attack Jang Uk. Despite being vastly outnumbered, the Long Clan still fought fiercely, showing no fear of death. Their bravery was truly commendable. Unfortunately, to Jang Uk, numbers didn't matter. In fact, the more there were, the faster the outpost defenders would die. The soldiers of the Long Clan hadn't even reached level 37. No matter their class, even the best knights couldn't withstand the attacks of the skeleton warriors. The magic skills of the skeleton mages came pouring in, and within moments, a large number of them were wiped out. Next, a red light flashed in the palm of Jang Uk, and the familiar red orb slowly began to grow larger. He coldly muttered, "As long as there's one corpse, I win." Jang Uk immediately cast the asterisk corpse explosion asterisk skill. A loud explosion rang out. Within just a few seconds, over 1,000 Long Clan soldiers simultaneously perished, with not a single one left standing. The explosions kept coming, each one louder than the last, with more than 10 blasts in just 3 seconds. The outpost defenders, who had just rushed toward the undead army, collapsed to the ground with a massive crash. The more corpses there were, the stronger Rim Jang Uk's attacks became. Numbers were meaningless. The commanding officer trembled as he saw it, his eyes wide in disbelief as he exclaimed, "How is this possible? How can this be happening?" In their eyes, Rim Jang Uk now appeared like a true monster. What kind of skill is this? Why doesn't our clan have any information on it? Rim Jang Uk, hearing their question, decided to indulge them with an answer. It's really simple. There's nothing to question. The people who have seen this skill, they're all dead. Rim Jang Uk then used skeleton fangs, sending a barrage of bone spikes shooting up to pierce through the 7 commanders. The swirling vortex that represented the dungeon's exit began to slowly spin. Rim Jang Uk realized that the vortex, which marked the dungeon's exit, had appeared, meaning his side had finished what they needed to do. Next, they just had to wait for the difficulty settings for both Nightmare and Normal mode to finish, then it would be done. He took out the Eye of the Chain Scroll and gently activated it with his mental energy. The scroll glowed faintly, and small lines of energy reached out to connect with the dungeon's exit. Once all 3 Eye of the Chain Scrolls were activated, the dungeon could be triggered. Outside, Xiao Chai's song shouted in panic, "The purple light, that's the scroll that Rim Divine General activated. How can it be happening this fast?" It's only been a short time. Mok Sing Hai, having already noticed this, smiled knowingly. "I told you, you need to trust Rim Divine General. It might be hard for you, but for him, it's just child's play." Right now, Xiao Jacksong no longer dared to doubt. He scratched his head, looking puzzled. "You're absolutely right," he said. "The Divine General really is the Divine General. We can't compare to that." In such a short time, not only did he complete the Hell Level 35 difficulty dungeon, but he also wiped out thousands of Long Tribe soldiers stationed inside. This is definitely not something an ordinary person could do. Though Xiao Song had heard about Rim Jang Uk's great achievements in Fort 6, he had been somewhat skeptical before. But now, he couldn't help but believe. No wonder the military had directly requested Rim Jang Uk's help. It was clear that the higher-ups in the army must have known some important information. A moment later, the 2 remaining scrolls were activated, and the other 2 difficulty levels were cleared. All 3 difficulty levels of the dungeon were simultaneously destroyed, and the dungeon was about to disappear completely. At the same time, Rim Jang Uk saw the scroll at the dungeon exit glow brightly. Looks like things are finished on that side too. It's time for me to leave. Rim Jang Uk took one last look at the dungeon. After all, this place held memories of him and Ning Yi. It was time to choose to leave the dungeon. Rim Jang Uk was slightly startled as a notification popped up, telling him that he couldn't leave the dungeon. He was completely confused. What was going on? The exit to the dungeon was no longer working, and he couldn't leave. It wasn't just him. Both the Nightmare and Normal difficulty levels had the same issue. Everyone inside couldn't leave. Outside the dungeon, Xiao Shang's smile quickly faded and turned into a look of panic. "This isn't right. What's happening? Why can't anyone get out?" Only 5 seconds had passed, but more than 3 seconds had gone by and still, no one had come out. His mind was in chaos and his hands and feet were frantic. He could only turn to Mok Sing Hai beside him for help. Mok Sing Hai frowned, sensing something was off, and muttered, "This isn't good." Rim Jang Uk tried several times, but he couldn't leave through the dungeon's exit. Even using a high-level escape talisman didn't work. Not even a high-level dungeon exit charm had any effect. The entire dungeon is sealed off. Looks like someone's trying to kill me. Rim Jang Uk realized that someone had intentionally set this up. Recall all the undead legions and equip them with new skeleton armor. Now that it's come to this, there's nothing left to do but watch quietly. There's no other choice. The last 2 seconds passed in the blink of an eye, and all 3 scrolls exploded at once, destroying the exit to the dungeon immediately. The entire dungeon began to shake violently. Everything in the dungeon, which was made of energy and rules, started to collapse and fade away. It was as if everything was returning to its original state. Rim Jang Uk fell into an empty void, his vision filled with something resembling a teleportation talisman shattered beyond description. The connection between the 3 difficulty levels was broken. Rim Jang Uk sought extraordinary abilities from the other 2 difficulties. Fear was clearly visible on their faces. Rim Jang Uk urgently wondered, is it a team from another difficulty, The skeleton armor glowed, blocking wave after wave of energy hitting him. Rim Jang Uk braced himself, wanting to help them, but ultimately feeling powerless. Damn it, I can't help them. At this moment, his body was in the void, surrounded by the terrifying energy that was rampaging without control. The sound of cracking continued relentlessly, and the skeleton armor couldn't hold up much longer against this chaotic energy. The only thing Rim Jang Uk could do right now was to keep replenishing his skeleton armor. This bone armor wouldn't last long in the midst of this chaotic energy. It needed constant reinforcement or else he'd be torn apart. The dungeon was collapsing, breaking apart more violently by the second, and the chaotic energy was growing stronger and fiercer. In Jang Uk's line of sight, several soldiers were hit by the chaotic energy. They lasted only a few seconds before their bodies were completely destroyed. Jang Uk let out a soft sigh and narrowed his eyes. He focused on himself, then said with conviction, "Don't let me find out who's behind this, or I will kill you." The murderous intent in his eyes boiled over. He was sure someone was scheming, and their goal was to kill him. In the next instant, the dungeon completely collapsed. The terrifying chaotic energy surged toward him, crashing into Jang Uk. The skeleton armor shattered with a loud crash. Jang Uk gritted his teeth and endured. This hit was as powerful as one from the Demon King. He let out a painful cry and quickly put on his skeleton armor once again. At the same time, he lost control and was thrown into the void by the chaotic energy crashing around him. In the Baishin courtyard, Ban was calmly sipping a cup of fine tea with his eyes closed, enjoying the moment. Suddenly, he snapped his eyes open in shock and said, "Kinorim, something's happened." Baek Yua 1, filled with panic, slammed his hand on the table and asked, "Where?" Ban quickly replied, "Battlefield Plains, Fortress 1, the Long Tribe Guard Station instance." In the palm of Ban's hand, an illusion of the Shenixa Tower appeared and a beam of light shot out, enveloping Baek Yua 1. Without hesitation, Baek Yua 1 activated his teleportation talisman and disappeared. This time, the teleportation happened at an incredible speed. The air around Baek Yua 1 was torn apart by the intense energy. Even high-level, extraordinary abilities would be shredded in the process of teleportation. A golden glow surrounded Baek Yua 1's body, blocking all the chaotic energy. In less than 10 seconds, he covered the vast distance and materialized directly inside Fortress 1. Then, like a flash of lightning, he cut through the sky, his speed almost unimaginable. Xiao Shek-song was stunned and terrified by the sight, mumbling in disbelief, God level expert, it's Bai Shen. Yes, is this the place?" Less than half a minute later, Baek Yua 1 appeared in the sky above the Long Tribe Guard Station instance. By then, the instance had collapsed, its spiral structure twisted beyond recognition, on the brink of vanishing. Baek Yua 1 immediately appeared in front of the dungeon's vortex, his large hand gripping tightly around it. With a firm squeeze, the dungeon vortex shattered in his palm with a loud crack. The dungeon had completely collapsed, and the vortex could no longer be used. Mok Sing Hai took a deep breath. The dungeon was completely destroyed now. Feeling the overwhelming power, he recognized that the person in front of him was a god-level expert. At that moment, Mok Sing Hai didn't feel comfortable at all. He realized the huge gap between himself and Baek Yua 1. "It seems the gap between me and you, Baek, is still very wide." Mok Sing Hai thought to himself. Baek Yua 1's sharp eyes scanned the area, his god-level energy radiating intensely, overwhelming everything around him. Baek Yua 1 appeared towering in front of Xiao Shek-song. He gave off a heavy aura of murderous intent and asked coldly, "Did you use the chain scroll to destroy this dungeon? Who instructed you to bring Jang Uk to help destroy it?" Xiao Shek-song trembled. He was already in chaos because of the dungeon, and now a god-level expert like Baek Yua 1 had shown up. On top of that, it was the infamous Bai Shen. Xiao Shek-song was filled with fear. His mouth moved, but he couldn't find the words to explain. Mo Sing Hai sighed, quickly stepping in to explain everything. "Mr. Baek, please don't make things harder for him. The information came from Fortress 9, asking me to bring Jang Uk to help." Baek Yua 1 pressed on relentlessly, "So where did you get the I-Link scroll?" "The I-Link scroll belongs to the military. Outsiders can't find it, and each scroll has a traceable origin." Mo Sing Hai answered cautiously. "It was also sent from Fortress number 9. I don't know exactly who sent it." Baek Yua 1's killing intent flared up, his eyes turning cold. He sneered, Good, Fortress number 9. I can't believe they try to harm my disciple. Have they all forgotten how many years it's been since I've killed anyone? Do they think I'm old now? How powerful can a god-level expert be? No one knew before, but now the ground within 100 miles is shaking like an earthquake. Cracks are opening up, the sky and earth are changing color, energy is crashing at the center, making a roaring sound like thunder. The bloodlust surges, creating a terrifying phenomenon in the sky. It's as if the end of the world is near. Everyone felt as though a giant, unshakable hand had descended upon them, making it impossible to move or breathe. Xiao Shek-song was terrified, his face turning pale, his mouth agape as he muttered in fear about the fury of a god-level expert. Suddenly, a voice came from his ear, Ban's voice. "Mr. Baek, Don't rush. Kid Rim is fine. He's already entered the abyss. Beg Yua 1 suddenly jolted. As Jang Uk entered the abyss, he quickly thought through the chain of events and already had his answer in mind. I understand now. I'll head back immediately. The intense energy around him slowly faded. Beg Yua 1 soared into the sky and left in the blink of an eye. Back in Bai Shen's courtyard, Beg Yua 1 returned, his voice booming like thunder. It has to be the corrupt members of the cult of Ma. I can't believe they managed to infiltrate the military, and not just any position, but a high-ranking one. Beg Yua 1 turned to Elder Mang and asked, by the way, how did you know that Kidorim was fine and even entered the abyss? Mang Ban, casually sipping his tea, didn't look the least bit worried. Don't forget who gave Rim the teleportation stone for the abyss. Mang Ban had used the teleportation stone to sense that Jang Uk was currently in the abyssal world. Moreover, Rim's soul mark in the sacred soul hall hadn't been harmed, so it was clear that nothing had happened to him. During the time Beg Yua 1 was away, Mang Ban wasn't just sitting idly by. On the contrary, he had been quite busy. As Beg Yua 1 thought about Jang Uk's teleportation stone, his mind settled. So that means at any time, Rim could use the teleportation talisman to return right. Mang Ban nodded. That's right. You can do it any time, so you don't need to worry too much. Besides, his teleportation talisman is right here. Beg Yua 1 frowned. Then why hasn't the kid come back yet? Mang Ban chuckled. Of course he hasn't come back yet. It's because he has his own plans. You're already his master. Do you really want to be his father too? Beg Yua 1 cut in. At my age, I could probably be his great-grandfather. I get it. Stop talking nonsense. Beg Yua 1 said bluntly. What about the situation with Fortress Number 9? How do you plan to handle it? Mang Ban's voice grew a bit lower. We'll investigate thoroughly. I really want to see which claws reached out from where and make sure we cut them off. At that moment, Mang Ban's entire demeanor became serious, his gaze cold as ice. In the deep world, the flames were everywhere, glowing in a rich violet hue that covered both the ground and the sky, burning in clusters that connected to form one massive fiery sea. The fire realm was a fundamental part of the abyss. It was both the foundation and the light of this world. So this is the abyss? It's different from what I imagined. Jang Uk evaluated the abyss world. The abyss world wasn't much different from the descriptions in the books. A shard of the demon core could help him for an hour, and there was no need to worry about demons sensing him. In his hand, he held a teleportation stone that was glowing faintly. Before the dungeon collapsed and was destroyed, the terrifying energy continued to strike. His bone armor kept shattering from the relentless attacks, and he was fully aware that he couldn't hold on much longer. All other methods had proven useless in this situation. Jang Uk thought about the abyss teleportation stone, and with a sliver of hope, activated it. The abyss. Finally, he successfully escaped the chaotic energy and entered the abyss world. Now, if he wanted to return, all he had to do was wait an hour for the teleportation stone to recharge. In 1 hour, the energy of the abyss teleportation stone would be full, and he could go back. At this moment, Jang Uk knew nothing about the abyss world. He continued walking, a bit surprised by the scene before him. It turned out that the abyss wasn't just a desolate land after all. He knew that his presence in the abyss was nothing more than a drop of water falling into a pan of oil. The aura of humanity in the abyss clearly didn't mix well. In the blink of an eye, the lake was surrounded by evil demons, at least 300 or 400 of them. Jang Uk was startled. This doesn't feel right. Why are there so many demons? Have I been exposed? A few minutes later, more demons arrived, and their numbers kept growing, now nearing 1,000. In addition to the lower-level demons from before, higher-level demons started appearing. The levels were too high, with none exceeding level 45 for now. This strange situation only made Jang Uk more certain. There's definitely something wrong here. The fire in the middle of the lake began to rise. At first, it was only half a meter high, but then it suddenly shot up to 5 or 6 meters. The flames grew fiercer, and their color changed from light purple to a deep violet. Next, a flash of light appeared at the center of the flames. The light exploded with a loud boom, illuminating the entire lake. In the middle of the lake, a gateway to a secret realm appeared. The secret realm was filled with a huge amount of white light elements glowing brightly. Moreover, Jang Uk could feel the energy of a dungeon emanating from the gateway. The elemental energy of light was so strong that it almost overwhelmed him. The breath of light elements is so dense. Jang Uk was curious. Why is there a hidden realm in the abyss, and it even has the energy of a dungeon? A whole room of abyssal demons are flying into the hidden realm all at once. Jang Uk continued to wonder aloud. Are demons supposed to hate light elements the most? What are they doing here? Abyssal demons despise light elements second only to divine power. So why are these demons heading into this place? And why is there pure light element energy in the abyss? A flood of unanswered questions filled his mind as the light grew stronger and stronger. In the blink of an eye, the area outside the water was completely empty, with not a single demon in sight. Suddenly, Grim Jang Uk's eyes lit up. This power. I'm sure of it. This is the light element dungeon among the elemental dungeons. I can't believe it's hidden deep in the abyss. Maybe I can get my hands on some light element crystals. Without hesitation, Grim Jang Uk moved toward the center of the lake. He couldn't fly, but he had his own way of dealing with it. The hidden realm was nothing like he expected. It wasn't a world filled with bright white light. Inside, there were floating fire zones. These fire zones combined with the light element, creating a strange mix of blue and white glowing spots, making it look quite unique. The demons of the secret realm are absorbing these special fire zones. As the fire zones enter their bodies, the energy of the abyssal demons also becomes stronger. Bright white spots appear on the demons' bodies, and they all show expressions of both pain and pleasure, their energy growing and their levels rising. These demons are lost in their evolution, completely unaware that a human has appeared in the secret realm. Grim Jang Uk realized immediately. They're leveling up, evolving. It was as if Grim Jang Uk had discovered a new continent. This was knowledge that wasn't in any book. He was extremely fascinated by this special fire zone. A spell flew out. Grim Jang Uk received the information. Asterisk mutated fire zone, light asterisk. The fire zone combined with the light element, demons who absorb it can strengthen their core bodies and have a small chance of evolving into higher level demons. They can also level up, but the process of evolution comes with intense pain. As expected, just as Grim Jang Uk had guessed, this mutated fire zone really can help the demons evolve. No wonder so many demons were drawn here. At that moment, the secret realm lit up again, and more demons entered. As soon as they stepped inside, they saw Grim Jang Uk standing at the entrance. The new demon from the human race shouted in shock, and it was like cold water being poured into hot oil. The entire secret realm suddenly boiled with energy. You're really brave, coming to the abyss. The evil monsters in the secret realm turned one by one to look at Grim Jang Uk, their eyes filled with malice. As expected, a human has entered. Stucks, this is perfect. Who would have thought we could enjoy such delicious human flesh, even in the abyss? Eat him, eat him. How bold, daring to step into our secret realm. Each one of them glared and charged forward. The exit to the secret realm was blocked, and they weren't worried about Grim Jang Uk escaping. Hearing these words, Grim Jang Uk just quietly chuckled. A legion of undead appeared beside him, and the skeletal warriors raised their swords to strike while the skeletal mages unleashed their spells. Even the lower-level demons, not even reaching level 40, couldn't stand up to the skeletal warriors. They were weaker than the monsters in the lower-level dungeons, and as soon as they met, they were blown apart into pieces. The screams were relentless, echoing in the air as hundreds of demons at the entrance of the secret realm were wiped out in an instant. Then several more undead legions appeared and charged deeper into the secret realm. Soon, cries of despair could be heard coming from within. Kill them. The kill notifications kept coming in. The secret realm wasn't large or tall. Even the demons' dark energy rising couldn't escape the relentless pursuit of the undead legions. Grim Jang Uk fought like he was catching fish in a barrel, taking on the battle with ease. Wherever the undead legions went, the demons fell. Based on the energy from the dungeon, Grim Jang Uk saw the Spiral Dungeon. This was a light element dungeon, level 40, accessible to players from level 35 to level 45. The difficulty levels were Normal, Nightmare, and Hell. Just as he expected, it was a light element dungeon. Grim Jang Uk felt a bit excited inside. His guess had been right. Light element dungeons could be found in the human world, but here it was in the abyss world. If he had turned back earlier, he might never have found this place in his entire life. This was a level 40 dungeon, and the entry requirement was level 35 to level 45, which is why demons above level 45 couldn't enter. Before, the Undead Legion had only been killing demons below level 35. Perhaps demons above level 35 had already entered the dungeon. Those with higher skills tended to be more daring. Grim Jang Uk chose the Hell difficulty. The light element dungeon doors opened, and Grim Jang Uk stepped right in. As soon as he entered, the Undead Legion in the secret realm vanished. The entire secret realm fell silent. Deep within the secret realm, a blue flame blazed fiercely, growing stronger and brighter with each passing moment. Gradually, a pair of eyes appeared within the flames. Soon after, a group of demons entered the secret realm. "Ha ha, we are evolving," they said. As soon as they entered the hidden realm, they were immediately greeted by the sight of demon corpses scattered everywhere, leaving everyone in shock. "This is bad. Quickly alert the high-level demons." A demon quickly sent the news outside, and the abyssal world suddenly became chaotic. Inside the dungeon, Jang Uk noticed that the light element was stronger than before. The monsters in the hidden realm, each one as white as jade, resembled crystal gemstones. They were incredibly beautiful, but beneath their pure, flawless exterior, these creatures were extremely dangerous. Light element spirit, a hell tier monster, level 41, power 5,000, agility high, 30,000 mental strength, 50,000 physical strength, 5,000 skills, intense light explosion, immunity to light elemental attacks, immunity to physical attacks, 90% reduction in elemental damage. Jang Uk had seen all kinds of monsters, but even he couldn't help but be a little surprised when he saw these. Their power and physical strength were as low as 5,000, even weaker than monsters below level 30. Their agility was extremely high, meaning their speed wasn't slow at all. Their mental strength reached 50,000. Jang Uk couldn't help but wonder if they were magic-based monsters. But when he saw the stats, Jang Uk immediately understood why its physical stats were so low. As a light elemental monster, being immune to light attacks was completely normal. Complete immunity to physical attacks was also acceptable. After all, it was an elemental monster. However, the fact that it reduced damage from other elements by 90% was a bit terrifying. It was the first time Jang Uk had seen such high immunity stats. He could only say this type of monster was extremely unique. As for its skills, intense light explosion, Jang Uk still couldn't fully grasp it. The light elemental spirit charged at Jang Uk, its agility stat of 30,000, making it incredibly fast. In the blink of an eye, it was right in front of him, and then a burst of white light exploded, turning the world around him into a blur. Jang Uk was slightly shocked. This light elemental spirit actually self-destructed. He covered his eyes and muttered, "My eyes. I can't see anything, just white. They're starting to hurt, and the explosion is echoing in my ears." At that moment, Jang Uk felt like he was about to go blind. It took a while before his vision finally started to return. The skill itself didn't cause much damage, but it severely affected his sight. Jang Uk glared fiercely. He could only rely on his Bone Warrior route to push forward and find a way. In a world like this, he couldn't figure out which direction to go. The skeletons scattered, searching for a path. The layout of the dungeon slowly began to form in his mind. Jang Uk realized he was actually standing in the middle of an enormous plaza. The plaza was more than 10 kilometers in diameter, incredibly spacious. Eventually, a path appeared in his mind, and the skeletal warrior finally found a way out of the plaza. At the far end of the plaza, he finally saw something other than the endless expanse, a series of white stairs stretching out before him. There were so many steps it was impossible to count, and they extended far into the distance, leading up to a statue. That's an angel, he thought. Jang Uk was momentarily stunned. The statue looked like it was made of jade, with two pairs of wings behind it. One hand held a scepter, and the figure radiated an air of solemnity, glowing with pure holy light. While there were brief mentions of angels in human history, the accounts were fragmented and incomplete. It seemed that angels were an ancient race, so ancient that they were almost lost to history. In contrast, in his past world, there were legends of heaven and angels, but it was clear these two concepts were different. Most of the angels here seemed to represent the element of light. Jang Uk wasn't particularly interested in angels, though. His attention was focused on the path before him. The stairs stretched on, one step after another, winding upward, leading toward rows and rows of angel statues. The information system states that every time you climb 100 steps, you can obtain an item. Along the way, there are many light elemental spirits, which seem similar to the trial dungeon type known as the God's Chosen Secret Realm. To get through and collect the items, you need to survive the self-detonations of the light elemental spirits. But this was nothing to Jang Uk. In fact, the light elemental spirits couldn't even touch his skeleton armor. "As long as I close my eyes when they self-detonate, everything else is no problem," he said, completely unfazed, striding forward. The light elemental spirits charged at him, self-detonating. Amid the roar of their explosions, Jang Uk skillfully avoided the blast energy and continued moving forward. The skeleton armor stood firm against the self-detonations of the light elemental spirits, and they couldn't stop him in the slightest. The entire path was much longer than the God's Chosen Secret Realm, but the difficulty was far lower. After all, this was just a level 40 dungeon. How hard could it be? Before long, Jang Uk had finished the first 100 steps and claimed his first item. The sacred crystallization fragment in his hand looked like a small shard of glass, glowing with a white light. It seemed ordinary, but the strong presence of light elemental energy was palpable. The corner of Jang Uk's mouth lifted slightly. Just as he thought, this dungeon wasn't about fighting monsters, it was a trial dungeon. All he had to do was pass the trial to earn a reward: fragments of sacred crystallization. 5 fragments of sacred crystallization could be fused into a full sacred crystallization. A single fragment on its own was useless. Only once fused into a full sacred crystallization did it become valuable. Jang Uk looked at the 14 paths ahead of him, stretching endlessly as if they had no end. Every 100 steps, there would be a fragment waiting, and it seemed like there were other things to find as well. Jang Uk realized that the rewards here were going to be significant. He wanted all of it. As Jang Uk walked, the self-exploding power of the light elemental spirit gradually grew stronger. His bone armor began to shine brighter, indicating it was taking on more and more impact. However, it was still far from reaching the limit of his skeleton armor. Jang Uk paid no attention, continuing to move forward. He collected every sacred crystallization fragment he came across. Before long, he had gathered 5 fragments. With enough in hand, Jang Uk immediately fused them into a full sacred crystallization right there on the spot. The light crystal could be combined with crystallized elements from other basic elements to create the elemental divine stone, which would increase the chances of awakening latent abilities during the 3rd phase. The more elements combined, the stronger the divine stone's effect. Additionally, it could be used on its own to permanently increase fire resistance. However, once used on its own, the elemental divine stone could no longer offer support. After receiving the light crystal, Jang Uk took out the elemental divine stone and fused it with the sacred crystallization. A few minutes later, Jang Uk had a brand new elemental divine stone. Elemental divine stone, fire, poison, earth, light, used when awakening latent abilities for the 3rd time. It can increase career transcendence probability by 20%. The elemental divine stone fused from the 4 elements raises the career transcendence rate by 20%, double the increase when fusing 3 elements. From what Jang Uk knew, the remaining elements that could be fused were wind and electricity. He couldn't yet guess how high the probability of awakening latent abilities could go. Baek Yue-1 had once said, the elemental divine stone can only increase career transcendence chances by up to 50%. Jang Uk wasn't sure if that was true or not. It wasn't that he doubted Baek Yue-1's words. It was just that he believed everything needed to be seen to be truly believed. Jang Uk's cold eyes shifted forward. The passage wasn't even halfway through, and it seemed there were still valuable things waiting for him ahead. There was much more for him to collect. Recovering the elemental divine stone, Jang Uk continued forward. By now, the light elemental spirit had grown much stronger than when it started. At least the self-detonation power had doubled. However, for Jang Uk, it still wasn't enough. Every year, the light elemental spirit's self-detonation could only wear down the skeleton armor once. The armor didn't just block damage, it neutralized all attacks. Under its protection, Jang Uk remained completely unscathed. Looking through the extraordinary abilities magic system, Jang Uk couldn't find a better defensive skill than skeleton armor. He moved steadily towards the angel statue, never stopping for even a minute, except when picking up items. Not even the blinding white light from the explosion could stop him from advancing. Ah, something's changed, Jang Uk said as he picked up a pure gemstone. Light crystal. Permanently reduces 50% of light elemental damage with a chance to gain a light-based skill. The effect only applies when used for the first time. Just as I thought, Jang Uk smiled, confirming what he had expected. Each elemental dungeon had its own elemental crystals and protective stones. Using the light stone, he lightly focused his mental energy, activating the effect. A white light enveloped his entire body, transforming Jang Uk into a massive circle of light. The circle stayed for a moment before gradually fading away. This meant that Jang Uk hadn't awakened a new skill. The angel statue, which looked like white jade, suddenly trembled slightly. The staff at its hand shot out a beam of light, which landed on Jang Uk. The circle of light that had just dimmed became brilliant again. A large amount of light energy gathered around Jang Uk, and a pair of wings appeared faintly behind him. Inside the circle of light, Jang Uk remained fully conscious, watching everything the angel statue did. Jang Uk acquired the Blessing of Light skill. Blessing of Light level 1 grants 30 minutes of immunity to all negative statuses, including curses, seals, silence, and all other types of negative effects. The cooldown time is 12 hours. The young man felt a little excited, but still spoke coldly. Thank you, Angel. From now on, I won't have to worry about the sealing summoning spell anymore. Jang Uk bowed to the angel statue in gratitude. After firing that beam of light, the energy of the archangel statue weakened significantly, as if the power accumulated over many years had been drained all at once. The archangel statue remained still, endlessly repairing its skeleton armor. Jang Uk reached the top floor without facing any danger. At the highest point, there was a box. The box was made of light elements. As soon as Jang Uk touched it, the box transformed into countless points of white light before disappearing. The next item was now in Jang Uk's hands. The Heart of Light can awaken the God of Light. The key to the Temple of Light, the key to unlocking the true Temple of Light. Jang Uk looked at the two items deep in thought. Before, there was the flower of the fire god and the key to the fire god, which could open the true fire god's temple and awaken the fire god. Now, there was the Temple of Light and the God of Light. Could there be a connection between the two? Boom! The dungeon suddenly shook violently. Jang Uk felt confused. What's going on? The Archangel statue's face cracked and then collapsed. The staff in its hand turned into a beam of light and shot toward Jang Uk. The power of the beam was absolutely terrifying. Unexpectedly, a scepter flew into Jang Uk's hands. Monarch's Scepter Incomplete, a legendary weapon with full attributes plus 500,000. It was a legendary grade weapon, and though it was incomplete, it wasn't damaged and was still usable. Normally, the head of the scepter would contain an item, but now it was empty. Without the extra attachment, the legendary weapon lost its skill-enhancing abilities, and its attributes became incomplete. Despite that, Jang Uk couldn't help but feel excited as he looked at its boost in attributes. The attribute boost is incredibly high. The overall attributes are increased by 50,000. The 4-dimensional attribute boost increases by 2 million. This completely surpasses the basic attributes of a level 70 extraordinary abilities character. A truly surprising increase. Jang Uk felt that even among legendary weapons, this Monarch's Scepter was impressive. Its skills didn't matter that much to him. Many of them were useless for him anyway, especially since a lot of the weapon skills were only useful for extraordinary abilities. For Jang Uk, attributes were the most important thing. Legendary grade weapons could only be used after completing the third awakening of latent abilities at level 70. So for now, all he could do was admire it, though the more he looked, the more he wanted it. After staring at it for a while, he put the Monarch's Scepter away. The angel statue collapsed, revealing the exit to the dungeon, so it was time to leave. There are still many demons outside waiting for us. Once we leave, it will be a fierce battle, but I can't just let you all wait for nothing. Jang Uk could have chosen to leave the Abyss right now, return to the human world, and leave the demons outside the dungeon waiting in vain, but he didn't want to do that. If he had come this far, how could he leave without fighting a good battle? Just 10 minutes later, his spirit had fully recovered, and everything was ready. Jang Uk equipped himself with a brand new skeleton armor. Now it was time to start. The calm and quiet atmosphere suddenly erupted, surging like a storm inside the dungeon. After hearing the news, several demons flooded into the secret realm, surrounding it so tightly that not even an ant could slip through the exit of the dungeon. It wasn't just inside the secret realm, there were even more demons outside. This was Jang Uk's first time stepping into the Abyssal world. Even though he had been here for half a day, he still didn't fully understand the true nature of this dark world. The Abyssal world also had cities of demons. Near here, there was a large city, and as soon as the demons inside heard the news, they immediately rushed over. When the news spread, demons from other cities began to gather. This secret realm was known to the demons as the Secret Realm of Light's projection. Every time it appeared, the light element inside would be corrupted by the fire realm, causing a mutation. After absorbing it, the demons' resistance to the light element would increase, and it could even help evolve their bloodlines. Not only could they level up, but there was also a chance for ordinary demons to evolve into higher-tier elite demons. With such great benefits, demons flocked to the Secret Realm of Light's projection. Every time, at least a few thousand demons came to absorb the mutated fire realm. However, a secret realm has a level limit. Demons above level 45 cannot enter, so the demons that usually came here were mostly below level 45. But now, things were different. As soon as they heard the news, demons above level 45 took action. They surrounded the outside of the secret realm, waiting for Jang Uk to appear. It was extremely rare for humans to sneak into the Abyssal world, so the demons were all incredibly excited. The space distorted slightly, and Jang Uk's figure appeared outside the dungeon. He's out! It's a human. Kill him. Let's go, and later we can share the spoils. The group of demons immediately launched a relentless attack on Jang Uk. Having just come out of a dungeon, he was momentarily stunned for about 2 seconds, leaving him unable to dodge. In those 2 seconds, he took countless hits. Jang Uk was confident in his skeleton armor, believing it could withstand at least one blow in those 2 seconds. Even if it couldn't, he still had the damage transfer link with his summoned undead. The skeletons, with their damage-sharing abilities, would make sure the hits weren't an issue. The skeleton armor gleamed as it absorbed hit after hit. All the demons were under level 45, with most of them being low-level demons. Their attacks weren't very strong, and 2 seconds were enough for them to launch 4 or 5 strikes. At this moment, the demons were desperately trying to kill Jang Uk. The skeleton armor creaked and groaned, showing clear signs of damage. The demons bared their teeth and grinned, as if they could already picture Jang Uk being torn apart. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared. Just as the skeleton armor was about to break, it fully restored itself. For 6 seconds, Jang Uk stood there alone. The demons were sweating, realizing how strong this guy's defense was. They needed to increase their attack power to break through it. One demon sneered, glaring with bloodshot eyes. Level 37, how tough can he really be? Let's take him down together. While they were plotting against him, Jang Uk coldly said, "My turn." The air twisted violently, and the undead legion appeared. The secret realm had almost been entirely taken over by demons, but now the undead legion materialized in the gaps between them. A skeletal warrior swung its sword, while a skeletal mage launched an attack on the nearest target. Where did these immortals come from? This isn't good. This is his summon. He was an immortal summoner, and these skeletons were incredibly powerful. There were so many of them, too. The appearance of the undead legion completely disrupted the demons' rhythm. The demons were being attacked, and one by one, they screamed. The demons outside had no idea what was happening inside. They were too numerous to get through, and those inside couldn't escape. Jang Uk coldly locked his gaze on the demons. Blow up. Corpse explosion level 6. Detonates a corpse, causing 35% damage to enemies within a 6-meter radius. The fireball in Jang Uk's hand grew larger with each passing moment. Boom, boom, boom. The red light spread, engulfing the entire space. The screams of agony echoed, marking the rhythm of death's march. As the first demon perished, a loud explosion resonated throughout the secret realm. The demons inside collapsed one by one like wheat falling in a field. Level 6 corpse explosion, body detonation triggered, dealing 35% damage to enemies within a 6-meter radius. Enhanced by innate skills. Within a 240-meter range, the damage from the body's life force increases by 14 times. In the Long Tribe's outpost dungeon, with the help of thousands of Long Tribe soldier corpses, Jang Uk had finally upgraded his corpse explosion skill from level 5 to level 6. With a comprehensive boost from his innate abilities, each level up significantly expanded the power and range of the corpse explosion. This secret realm wasn't very large, just over 1,000 meters deep. Each time corpse explosion activated, it wiped out the surrounding demons. The demons floating in midair fell like raindrops. In an instant, the ground was piled with bodies, forming a mountain. The demons outside the blast radius hadn't even reacted yet. Before they could understand what the humans in front of them were doing, they were all dead, instantaneously. What just happened? While they were still trying to figure it out, the bodies in front of them suddenly exploded. Their consciousness vanished, and their souls dissipated, dying without a trace. The number didn't matter to Jang Uk. He quickly moved forward, causing one body after another to explode. The sound of powerful blasts echoed continuously throughout the secret realm. In less than 10 seconds, there was not a single demon left alive inside the secret realm. Jang Uk wiped his hands off, then shoved them in his pockets and casually walked toward the outer area. Suddenly, a loud noise erupted from deep inside the secret realm, shaking the entire structure. There's a boss. Jang Uk was a bit surprised. He hadn't expected a boss to be inside this small secret realm. Purple flames shot out from the depths of the secret realm, transforming into a fire dragon that charged toward Jang Uk. He glanced toward the deep end of the secret realm, where he saw a massive burst of purple flames. The flames continuously morphed in the air before finally taking shape as an abyssal flame demon. Jang Uk immediately understood. The boss of this secret realm was the abyssal flame. The entire flame abyss was burning fiercely. There were many types of distorted flame realms, each formed for different reasons. Ultimately, they gave rise to abyssal flame spirits. These spirits could take many forms, and their existence was similar to the abyssal flame spirit that the enchanting Demon King had awakened. The abyssal flame spirit is a type of elemental creature with unique traits. As soon as it appeared, it immediately attacked Jang Uk. The entire secret realm was soon engulfed in flames, transforming into a world of purple fire. Jang Uk calmly said, "In such a hurry to die, huh? Last time, when I defeated an abyssal flame spirit, it dropped a fire gem. I wonder if he'll drop something similar, or maybe just hand me a fire crystal this time." Meanwhile, a group of skeletons tossed bodies into the air, which exploded one after another. The explosions kept going off, and Jang Uk kept triggering his corpse explosion skill over and over. Jang Uk wasn't sure about the level of this abyssal flame spirit, nor did he care. Whether it was level 50 or 55, it didn't matter. With this many bodies, it would definitely be destroyed by the explosions. Even though the bodies weren't very high level and had weak life forces, his corpse explosion skill was so powerful now that the only difference was how many times it would explode before it was wiped out. One by one, the bodies exploded, and the abyssal flame spirit screamed in agony. The flames that once burned brightly began to shrink, and after taking over 30 explosions, the spirit let out a final desperate cry and was completely extinguished. From start to finish, it never even came close to Jang Uk, let alone do anything to him. The Abyssal Flame Spirit gave 1 million experience points and dropped a fire gem. The red gemstone was just like the fire gem he had once had. The earth gem permanently reduces fire elemental damage by 50% and has a chance of granting a fire skill, effective from the very first use. When Jang Uk used it, he received the permanent 50% fire damage reduction, but did not receive any corresponding fire skill. The fire gem no longer worked for him. He withdrew the fire gem and looked out of the secret realm. The secret realm is shaking. It's about to collapse, so we need to leave. The boss was dead, and the secret realm was soon to vanish. He guessed it wouldn't reappear for some time. Moreover, there had been changes in the dungeon. The angel statue has collapsed, so the rewards inside must have changed as well. The most important thing was that the scepter of the Overlord was now in his hands. If things went badly, from today on, the dungeon might change location. Jang Uk realized that the secret realm itself had locked the dungeon before. Now that the boss of the secret realm had been defeated, the dungeon was free. Where it will appear next is anyone's guess. The Undead Legion appeared, lifting up all the corpses. More than a dozen bodies of the best weapon. Once the boss died, the secret realm could no longer exist. Like bubbles popping and disappearing into the air, Jang Uk and the army of the undead appeared outside the secret realm at the same time. The secret realm was located on a small island in the middle of a lake, offering very little space. The demons outside saw the army of the undead and shouted loudly. The secret realm is gone. They've come out. What's happening? Why are there so many liches? Where are the demons inside the secret realm? Can't you escape either? Jang Uk responded in his own way. A flash of red light suddenly appeared, and Jang Uk used his skill again. Each corpse was thrown into the air, then exploded. The corpses burst apart with loud explosions. The demons in the air didn't have time to react before they were torn apart by the blasts. Jang Uk continuously triggered the corpse explosion skill. Even though the bodies were of low-level demons like those at level 30, their explosions were enough to seriously injure high-level demons like those at level 40. If he exploded the bodies of demons level 35 or higher, it could instantly kill high-level demons at level 40. In the blink of an eye, many demons were killed by the explosions. Within moments, thousands of demons had died, their bodies falling like raindrops into the lake. A few demons, quick to react, fled in fear at once. The group of evil spirits surrounding Jang Uk quickly scattered. A shift occurred in Jang Uk's mind as he was carried by the skeleton, which jumped straight back to the shore. Since he couldn't fly, the middle of the lake wasn't the best place for a fight. The undead army followed him, reaching the land as well. The skeleton mage began launching powerful spells into the air, scattering the evil spirits in all directions like birds being shot from cannons. The mental power of the skeleton mage was incredibly high, making the spells extremely strong. Even evil spirits above level 45 would be injured by a single hit, and if they were unlucky, they'd be instantly killed. The skeleton mage continued to cast skills without stopping. These evil spirits had no concept of mental power, so as long as they were alive, the attack wouldn't stop. We can't let him get away with this. One of the higher level evil spirits growled. Let's all attack him together. Right, let's charge. A few of the higher level evil spirits roared in fury, gathering together and launching an assault on Jang Uk. Several of them rushed forward, unfurling 2 large wings. These wings were unlike those of the other evil spirits. When fully extended, they were more than 10 meters long. The evil spirits form a massive dark barrier together. At the same time, a powerful, abyssal aura emanated from their bodies, turning into thick black clouds that enveloped them entirely. From a distance, it looked like a black cloud descending from the center. Behind it was a massive group of abyss demons, all above level 45. The attack from the bone mage fell into the black cloud, and most of the remaining attacks were knocked away, unable to deal significant damage. A strange sound echoed in Jang Uk's ears. It was this type of sound that had bounced most of the attacks back. Scouting technique activated. Abyssal Demon Bat, level 49, Power 20,000, Agility 20,000, Spirit 15,000, Physical Strength 50,000. Skills: Sonic Force Field, Light Element Defense reduced by 50%, all damage reduced by 30%, Vitality Enhancement. Jang Uk immediately understood that this demon specialized in defense. Its other attributes were average, but its physical strength was incredibly high. Plus, with a Vitality Enhancement, it had far more life force than a regular demon. The Sonic Force Field skill even reflects some of the damage back. Among the human extraordinary abilities, this position was roughly equivalent to that of a knight. Under their leadership, the demons launched an attack on Jang Uk. The demons closed in with extreme speed, like a spring being released. Jang Uk didn't rush to act. As they came within 100 meters, a large number of corpses were thrown out. The primary damage was released first, followed by a buzzing sound that enveloped the heads of the demons. But the demons just stood there, frozen. Jang Uk exclaimed, "The defense is not bad at all. I wonder how many rounds you can hold up. There are so many bodies here." The red light flashed again, and the corpses kept coming, exploding violently. The Abyssal Rift surged forward, desperately activating the Soundwave force field. 6 Abyssal Demon Bats connected their Soundwave force fields together, greatly increasing their resistance. During the explosions, an invisible wall made entirely of sound waves could be seen. Most of the damage from the quartz explosions was reflected back, having no effect on them. "The defense is pretty solid, but it can only hold for a little while," he said, his fingers constantly pointing, causing explosions to keep happening. Right now, the skeletons had a large number of corpses in their hands, including thousands of demons. In the secret realm, each one was a weapon for Jang Uk. His talent and curse doubled the power, so even the Abyssal Demon Bat couldn't stop the continuous explosions. The Soundwave force field managed to block more than 10 explosions before it finally shattered. All 6 Abyssal Demon Bats died at once. The demon army behind them immediately appeared in front of Jang Uk. The demons' faces changed, but it was too late. The arrow had already been shot. If they retreated now, it would be too late. "Advance, kill him. Don't worry about the skeletons taking down this human. Hurry up. Don't be afraid to die, go." Jang Uk coldly muttered to himself while casting his skills. "Don't worry. None of you are getting away." The demons screamed in madness, but their cries were useless. The Necromancer's skill had already reached them, and the most terrifying part was the bodies rising into the air. The demons charging forward died the quickest. They were torn apart by powerful explosions, falling from the sky, unable to reach Jang Uk. The demons behind started to realize something was wrong. They tried to flee, but it was too late. At that moment, over 10 corpses were thrown toward the back of the demon ranks. The demons still had a chance to escape, but Jang Uk wasn't about to give them the opportunity. With terror in their eyes, the demons saw Jang Uk appear before them. He detonated the corpses right in front of them, and one by one, the bodies fell like rain, either hitting the ground or splashing into the lake. The water slowly turned black as the fresh blood of the demons stained it. From beginning to end, these demons never even got close to touching the hem of Jang Uk's clothes. The great battle was nearing its end when a huge blast of air struck Jang Uk's armor from one direction. Die. Jang Uk was startled. The sword energy, capable of cutting through a distance of over 1,000 meters, struck him directly. His skeleton armor glowed and shimmered, firmly absorbing the sword energy. Hidden within the sword energy was an enormous, overwhelming force. From the armor's resistance, Jang Uk could tell that the opponent was likely above level 55. He looked up and saw nearly 100 black dots. These dots quickly grew larger, and soon, streams of sword energy rained down like a storm, crashing into his skeleton armor. Jang Uk had seen these demons in books before. They were Abyssal Demon Swords. Abyssal Demon Swords are born with a bone sword. As they level up, the bone sword becomes stronger, rivaling any weapon used by humans. They are skilled in swordsmanship, wielding sword energy with incredible power and sword intent that soars to the skies. Moreover, once an Abyssal Demon Sword reaches level 70, it becomes an elite demon and has a very slim chance of evolving into a Demon Lord. Jang Uk activated his scouting technique, eager to verify what he had read in the books. Abyssal Demon Sword, level 55, strength 50,000, physique 40,000, agility 25,000, mental strength 50,000, skills and sword energy. Light element defense reduced by 50%, dark element damage reduced by 30%. The type of demon with high defensive and offensive power, if it doesn't retreat, will attack Jang Uk with a deathly sword strike. Jang Uk was also feeling frustrated. It's rare for a human to sneak into the abyss. In the minds of the abyss demons, they believe they are the only ones allowed to invade human lands. The idea that humans would invade them is almost unthinkable. Even if humans occasionally enter the abyss, they'll soon become food for the demons. Moreover, Jang Uk had killed so many abyss demons, something that almost never happens. After all, Jang Uk wasn't some god-level powerhouse. He was just a little-level extraordinary, only level 37. However, Jang Uk was basically slapping the abyss in the face. The Abyssal Demon Sword had to kill Jang Uk. They needed to save face and regain their pride. Among all the demons in the abyss, the Abyssal Demon Sword was ranked among the top 10 in strength. What's more, once it reached level 70, it could level up and become an elite demon. These demons were incredibly powerful. Nearly 100 Abyssal Demon Swords marched forward in unison, their overwhelming presence filling the air. The air was thick with sword energy, slicing through the sky and earth. In an instant, the sword energy wove together like a giant net, descending upon them. The horde of sword demons surged forward, attacking Jang Uk relentlessly. This isn't good. I can't even throw the corpses outside, Jang Uk muttered as he tried several times, but the bodies wouldn't budge. He couldn't reach them at all. Only the magic of the bone necromancer had the power to harm them. But with the distance so great, the abyssal demon swords were incredibly agile in midair, and the damage he could deal was minimal. Both sides engaged in long-range attacks from hundreds of meters apart, and for a moment, neither could land a hit. Despite the abyssal demon sword's immense power, they couldn't defeat the undead horde anytime soon. On the other hand, the sword demons kept rising higher, maintaining a significant distance. Jang Uk couldn't take them down either. He sighed, watching the flying demon swords. If only I had a flight restriction skill, or better yet, could fly myself. Not having either is my biggest weakness right now. It seems some of the remaining demons had noticed this too. They whispered to each other, "Quick, fly higher. That human can't do anything to us." Jang Uk stared at the growing number of demons. His curiosity piqued. These demons are coming from that direction. What's over there? Jang Uk summoned a large number of skeleton warriors and ordered, "Go over there and check it out. We might be able to find the demon's lair." Since the demons were coming from the other side, Jang Uk wanted to take a look and see what was over there. The abyssal demon sword launched a long-range attack, sending black beams of abyssal energy toward the undead army. Immediately, Jang Uk dismissed the attack. His gaze was deep and focused. Suddenly, the undead army began to move. The back-and-forth struggle seemed pointless. The entire undead army blocked the abyssal demon sword's attack. Jang Uk completely ignored it. The damage from the attack was so minimal that it posed no threat to the undead army. Jang Uk barely even acknowledged their strikes, the abyssal sword frozen in place. Is this really human? It feels more like a world boss level threat. Are our attacks too weak? Why can't we seem to cause any harm to him? No, it's just that his skeletons are too strong. Maybe we should try attacking him directly, but he's hidden among the troops, so we can't even target him. It seems only a demon of a higher rank can threaten him. When did humanity get such a terrifying class? He feels even harder to deal with than the legendary Earth Knights. At least he can't fly, and he can't stop us from flying. If he could, that would be a real headache. A voice shouted, "That way, hurry, chase them down." They had no choice but to pursue the Undying Legion. The Undying Legion moved quickly, and in the blink of an eye, they were far from the lake, entering the dense forest on the other side. After crossing through the forest, Jang Uk's eyes brightened slightly as he saw a large city in the distance. A fiery abyss was burning fiercely in the city, casting a deep purple glow. The dark city walls, combined with the eerie blue of the fiery abyss, made the whole city stand out. From afar, it looked like a haunted fortress. So there's a city in the abyss after all, Jang Uk thought to himself. This wasn't mentioned in the books. What Jang Uk saw went beyond the limits of his textbooks. He couldn't tell exactly what was happening inside the city, but he could feel that it was filled with demons. The energy of the demons was like bright lights, impossible to miss. The massive city gates stood wide open, and on the high walls, demon sentries stood guard. Jang Uk touched the teleportation abyss stone in his pocket and coldly said, "Today, we'll attack the city. It was always the demons who attacked human cities before." As soon as the idea was set in motion, the army of the undead formed into a long line and charged toward the city at their fastest speed. The demons in the air stared in shock. How dared he? This human is insane. No human has ever dared to attack the Abyss City. Not even when the Dragon Clan was at its peak did something like this happen. Up until now, it's always been us attacking human cities. Why is it the other way around now? A group of demons couldn't believe what they were seeing. We have to stop him. But how do we do that? The dark, endless abyss land stretched out, and the undead army, glowing with a golden light, rushed toward the demon city. The demons on the city walls spotted Jang Uk, their minds filled with question marks. A loud warning alarm echoed through the city. In the heart of the city, there was a demon at the top of a towering spire that reached over 100 meters. In the blink of an eye, the spire demon activated the structure, releasing a brilliant light. A barrier quickly formed, descending from the sky, and was about to cover the entire city. Jang Uk's heart stirred. "There's a barrier. Get me over there quickly." Two skeletal warriors, one on each side, lifted Jang Uk's legs. With a burst of power, they shot him forward like a cannonball, sending him straight toward the barrier. The moment he charged into the barrier, it completely collapsed to the ground, preventing the undead army from entering. The abyssal demon swords chasing him in the air all halted at once. The barrier didn't just block the undead army, it also stopped them. Seeing Jang Uk inside the barrier, they all felt a chill run down their spines. After all, once a summoner entered, what good was it to stop the summoned beasts? One of the demons whispered, "This is bad." They all withdrew. Attacking now would be pointless. It could only watch and see what happened next. Jang Uk gathered his spiritual power and pulled his soul back into the summoning space. A second later, the entire undead army outside the barrier vanished. Things were over. The faces of the abyssal demon swords in the sky grew darker. This was turning into an even bigger disaster. Jang Uk shouted loudly, "Come out." Inside the barrier, a flash of white light appeared and the undead army materialized. They charged straight toward the city. The walls, the gates, none of it could stop their advance. The Lich Mage's magic targeted the city walls, launching a barrage of attacks against them. The walls looked sturdy at first glance, but when faced with the undead army, they couldn't withstand a single blow. The new barrier was the strongest defensive tactic, but unfortunately, it couldn't stop Jang Uk. The wall collapsed with a deafening roar, and the undead army surged straight through it. A large number of demon guards rushed forward, desperately trying to stop them. Their levels were above 40, and some were even over level 50. But when faced with the undead army, which was as fierce as wolves and tigers, they stood no chance. By the time they realized this, it was already too late. The skeletons didn't give them a chance to regroup. All the corpses taken from inside the secret realm had withered away and lost their life force. However, new corpses were now being created. A demon fell under the blow of a skeleton warrior. Its body landed in the hands of the skeletons. Jang Uk's lips curled into a slight smirk. Another new corpse. With his hands casually tucked in his pockets, Jang Uk walked forward confidently, protected by his skeleton armor. The sight of his cool demeanor caught the attention of the abyss demons outside the barrier, and their expressions changed dramatically. One demon closed its eyes and muttered, "It's over. We're done for." The sound of explosions rang out as the demons fighting the skeleton warriors all fell to the ground like harvested crops. One body turned into the source, quickly multiplying into many more. This set off a series of explosions similar to what had already happened in Demon City. The barrier's total height was only about 200 meters, and the radius of corpse explosion was 240 meters. Even if they flew to the highest point, they wouldn't be able to escape the blast. Jang Uk and the Phantom Legion moved through the city, causing explosions wherever they went. The barrier shook constantly from the blasts. The defensive power of the barrier was truly impressive. It had been blasted at least 40 to 50 times and still hadn't collapsed. Buildings were in ruins and the city had been devastated. No one knew how many demons had perished in the explosions. Jang Uk didn't feel the need to count them. At that moment, a white light flashed around him. He had leveled up. Despite the upgrade, the battle never stopped and the sounds of explosions continued. Jang Uk muttered to himself, "I still remember when the extraordinary abilities Colonel and the demon army attacked the city. Years ago, the abyss demons slaughtered the human cities. Now it's our turn. I want to leave this place in ruins, no one spared, not even the dogs or chickens. In less than 10 minutes, I'll wipe out the whole city, leaving nothing behind." Looking ahead, Jang Uk wondered aloud, that's the teleportation talisman for the Deep City area. The demons must have used it to teleport to other cities. Could I use this teleportation talisman to travel to other deep cities? Jang Uk thought for a moment before his eyes lit up, and he exclaimed, "Yes!" Just then, a skeleton warrior, dragging a demon corpse, approached Jang Uk. "I'm human, and while I have a demon core disguised energy, I definitely can't use the Deep City's teleportation talisman. Only demons can activate it." Jang Uk was worried that as a human, he wouldn't be able to use the teleportation talisman. So he purposely left behind a demon that was on the brink of life and death, using it to activate the talisman. Even at the moment he used the teleportation talisman, Jang Uk had no idea where he would end up. He felt a bit uncertain, not knowing whether the teleportation talisman would take him to a rural village, a city, a dungeon entrance, or some dangerous place. He can recognize the writing of the Abyss demons, but that didn't matter. He noticed that in a list of teleportation locations, there were a few words written in demon script that looked very similar at the end. Jang Uk guessed that these might be the names of different cities, and he randomly picked one that seemed to resemble the name of a city, hoping it would work for the teleportation talisman. A moment later, a group of sword demons appeared. When they couldn't find Jang Uk, they shouted, "This is bad." He used the teleportation talisman and disappeared. Where did he go? Quickly informed the Demon King, "We can't let him keep causing trouble." As their loud shouts echoed, Jang Uk saw dark, defensive buildings around him, a purple fire realm hovering in the sky, and the energy of a low-level demon, though not very powerful. Jang Uk knew he had made the right choice. If this was the case, then it was time to move forward. "Come out, my army," he thought. In the blink of an eye, the Legion of the Undead appeared, their skeletal armor now fully charged with spiritual power. The demons were stunned. What's going on? Where did these skeletons come from? A loud alarm rang out within the city, and a protective barrier appeared in response. Raven Jang Uk smiled. If the attack were coming from outside the city, this method would make sense, but clearly the attack was coming from within, and they were still using the same approach. Raven Jang Uk had the feeling he was cornering a dog. There was no way the demons inside the city would escape, not even one. He believed this defensive mechanism was automatic, and there were no demons inside the tower that controlled the barrier. Perhaps the demons had never considered that someone might launch an attack directly from within, but that worked in his favor. The Legion of the Undead charged forward. The level 38 skeleton warriors had become much stronger. Dealing with low-level demons under level 40 was like slicing through vegetables. One strike, one demon down. Even when facing higher-level demons like those at level 40, a burst of skills would be enough to finish them off. If that didn't work, a few more strikes would do the trick. In the end, the city was filled with the shadows of skeleton warriors. The demons shouted in panic, "Enemies! Invaders!" When they saw Raven Jang Uk, they were thrown into confusion. "This is a human. A human has actually entered the abyss." They urged each other, "Quick!" warned the Demon King. The evil demons tried to fly away to escape, but their own barrier blocked them, making it impossible for them to flee. The Necromancer was like someone hunting birds, shooting down all the demons flying in the air. Raven Jang Uk was constantly using his corpse explosion skill. In the blink of an eye, the entire city was plunged into chaos. The abyss had been peaceful for too long. Until now, the demons had only bullied and attacked others, never once being attacked themselves. Their response time was far slower than that of the human army. The demons were terrified and screamed in panic. Run, or we're done for. The red chains of Raven Jang Uk's slow curse kept reaching out, binding each demon flying in the sky. Raven Jang Uk was determined. He said, "If we don't kill them today, tomorrow it will be humanity's turn to face disaster. If we're going to kill them, we'll do it completely." Raven Jang Uk had no intention of sparing anyone. He wanted to wipe them all out. If something was marked as a target, he wouldn't hesitate to finish it off, slaughtering every demon in the city. Raven Jang Uk had prepared plenty of fresh corpses for them, and now the demons had no choice but to unwillingly become his new weapons. The massacre would be complete. Whether their level was high or low, they all had to be killed. In that moment, there was no kindness left in Raven Jang Uk, only overwhelming bloodlust. His mind was filled with the terrible things the Abyss demons had done when they slaughtered countless humans in the human world. At that time, humanity cried out in pain as people died from their wounds, and the demons even ate human flesh, leaving no corpses behind. At least Raven Jang Uk doesn't eat humans, and the Undead Legion doesn't either. Just this alone already makes them a lot better than the Abyss demons. Half an hour later, the entire demon city was empty, not a single demon left. At this point, even the demon towers, which Raven Jang Uk usually ignores, were destroyed without hesitation. At that very moment, in the Demon King's city, which was directly controlled by the Demon King, there was a bold and shocking sight. Humans had managed to infiltrate and take over a city in the Abyssal realm. The demons had their own way of communicating, and news quickly spread. Raven Jang Uk had wiped out 2 cities in a row. The entire Abyssal realm began to stir. It was unthinkable that humans had carried out a massacre in the Abyss, wiping out entire populations in 2 cities. It was unbearable and unacceptable. The Demon Lord city, the one closest to where Raven Jang Uk was standing, suddenly erupted with powerful energy. The Demon Lord city was the one directly managed by the Demon King. Even though the Demon King usually stayed in his own palace, he still had avatars in the Demon King's city, controlling it and ruling the other cities in his domain. He began issuing commands, and the demons started to mobilize. By the time Raven Jang Uk reached the next city, he was carrying a demon that had been completely destroyed, and he stepped into the teleportation circle for the next round of his massacre. Raven Jang Uk had entered the 3rd city. The familiar sights, the familiar smells, the familiar barriers, and the familiar demons. Then came the deafening explosions echoing throughout the 3rd demon city. Raven Jang Uk grew more and more skilled as time passed, and the winged demons kept appearing in waves. He quickly realized that, indeed, there were high-level demons here. Raven Jang Uk charged up his spiritual power and gave a cold glance. But inside this barrier, you have no place to escape. The red orb in Raven Jang Uk's hand flared up again. His eyes locked onto the demons flying above. The corpse explosion skill was activated. Boom, boom, boom. The deafening explosions echoed through the air, and the whole space was bathed in red. This time, within less than half an hour, the entire demon city was wiped out. Once again, the killing intent around Raven Jang Uk grew stronger, swirling in the air like smoke, almost becoming tangible. A Munsmed buried in the library of the Genesis Academy was now nothing but a distant memory. Raven Jang Uk looked into the distance, muttering to himself, "Did the Abyss demons ever think back then when they invaded the human world? that a day like this would come. Golden light radiated from his body. After slaughtering 2 cities, he leveled up and finally reached level 39, boosting his strength even further. With a cold gaze, Jang Uk activated the teleportation talisman. The teleportation talisman shifted the location, altering the original path, and the list of destinations vanished. Now, only one place remained to go. Jang Uk couldn't read the demon's language, but he knew for sure that the place ahead was extremely dangerous. After all this time, the demons had probably prepared for him, likely setting traps, waiting for him to walk right into them. Haha, then I'll see how deep this abyss really is. Even if it's dangerous, I'll still charge in to see for myself. Jang Uk immediately took out the asterisk ancient traditions of the Abyssal Holy Land asterisk. Without hesitation, he touched the teleportation abyss stone. Let's go, he said. The teleportation talisman will take a little longer, about 20 seconds or so to finish. Jang Uk and his pets headed toward the Demon King's city. The skeletal warrior still carried 2 bodies. As soon as his feet touched the ground, he felt his entire body sink, and a massive force surged down from the sky, forming a giant fist that seemed ready to crush Jang Uk into nothing. The skeleton armor was incredibly bright, making loud cracking sounds, crackling as it moved. After enduring for 2 seconds, the armor exploded with a loud bang. The fist slammed into him. Even though Jang Uk had just regained his vision and the sluggishness from the teleportation talisman had worn off, the sudden attack shattered his skeleton armor. Jang Uk quickly shifted the damage using his summoned life-linking ability. The force was overwhelming and the entire undead army summoned in the space was injured. 1 second later, Jang Uk released the undead army and immediately began repairing his skeleton armor. As soon as the army appeared, it started healing at once. The deceased hero began to heal the entire army. The skeletons quickly recovered, fully restored in the blink of an eye. Jang Uk took a deep breath. That punch was too strong. Luckily, there's a lifelink summoning connection. Otherwise, thousands of skeletons might have died just now. Suddenly, Jang Uk froze. Oh, I actually blocked a punch for the Demon King himself. A booming, powerful voice echoed through the air. Jang Uk saw a massive figure standing in the void, radiating overwhelming energy. A pair of horns grew from the top of his head, resembling the shape of a bull's head, but with 2 extra pairs of wings on his back. Jang Uk quickly identified the figure in his mind. He had seen this Demon King's description before in the asterisk tome of the 4-winged barbaric ox king asterisk. This being had once been just an ordinary barbaric ox demon, but then he had accidentally evolved into a 4-winged barbaric ox. From there, he kept leveling up until he eventually became a Demon King. However, his strength was ranked relatively low among the many Demon Kings from the Abyss. Even so, no matter where he stood in the rankings, he was still a Demon King. Anyone above level 90 was considered equivalent to a god-tier powerhouse among humans. Jang Uk felt a bit helpless. He didn't expect the Demon King to get personally involved. He knew he had been a little too confident, but the next moment, he realized something was wrong. If the Demon King had come here in person, then with the punch he just threw, he would definitely be dead. But this wasn't the true form of the Demon King, it was just a clone. The Demon King's clone was stationed in the Demon King's city, and it seemed like he had arrived at the city now. The Demon King had lifted the teleportation talisman and opened a large door, waiting for him to jump in, yet he still jumped in. Human, what's your name? You're only level 39, yet you're able to slaughter so many people in the city, and how can you survive a punch from me? Who exactly are you? Why are you hiding your true level? The voice of the 4-winged barbaric ox king was thunderous, booming like the wind rushing through the air as he spoke. Jang Uk looked at him, staying silent. It was just a clone, there might still be a chance. Back in the village, he would have only been able to run, but now he was in the city, surrounded by all sorts of evil demons. Maybe he could try to fight after all. His hand began to heat up. Jang Uk quickly activated his skill Enhanced Troops. In an instant, his undead army reached its peak strength and numbers, and he himself also became as strong as he could be. The 4-winged barbaric ox king growled. You dare strike at me in front of my face. Let's see how you survive my next punch. Explode. The red orb filled with spiritual power and Jang Uk's palm grew larger. In the void, a pair of massive oxen horns appeared and came crashing down on Jang Uk as if the sky itself had fallen. At that moment, the demonic forces also launched their attack against the undead army. But when 4-winged barbaric ox king saw that Jang Uk was still standing unscathed amid the dust and smoke, it froze in shock. Hey, you're still not dead. The deceased hero, also known as the Undead General, activated the Legion's healing skill. Jang Uk remained calm and coldly spoke. You're not worthy enough to kill me. The skeletal warriors under Rim Jang Uk's command gripped their swords tightly, their eyes sharp and unwavering, locked onto the four-winged barbaric Ox King. Every step they took seemed to carve into the air, creating an aura of majesty and terror. The cold, desolate gaze of the skeletal warriors seemed like it could pierce through the thick hide of the Bull King, making the air around them tense and suffocating. The four-winged barbaric Ox King stood tall, its eyes glowing red like flames burning from its furious gaze. Its mouth opened wide, revealing razor-sharp fangs as deadly as blades. The roar of challenge it let out echoed through the space, filled with menace. "How dare you ignore me?" Every word from its mouth thundered like a storm, shaking the very earth. The surrounding air thickened, charged with an undeniable aura of dominance. The anger and majesty of the four-winged barbaric Ox King made the entire land seem to hold its breath, waiting for the terrifying wrath that was about to erupt. Seeing that Rim Jang Uk didn't say a word, a heavy voice of the four-winged barbaric Ox King rang out again. "It doesn't matter who you are. The fact that you can take one of my blows and survive is enough reason to be proud. After you die, I will set up a tombstone for you just to show you some respect." Demons injected the 200-meter-tall tower in the royal city with a burst of light, immediately forming a magic circle in the air. Rim Jang Uk had seen the magic circle in the sky several times before. It was the ceiling summoning technique. The four-winged barbaric Ox King, furious beyond measure, let out a roar, a sound like a bull's bellow. At the moment the magic circle was formed, Rim Jang Uk snapped his fingers and a burst of white light shot out from his body through his hand. Blessing of light, Rim Jang Uk responded coldly. "I am no longer afraid of the summoning seal technique." For 30 minutes, he was immune to all negative status effects with a 12-hour cooldown. His entire body was surrounded by white light and no negative status could affect him, not even the ceiling summoning technique. The Blessing of Light also patched up the final missing pieces of his skeleton armor, making Rim Jang Uk's defense system flawless. The destructive red orb reappeared in the palm of Rim Jang Uk's hand. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Rim Jang Uk triggered the explosive destruction of several demonic corpses once again. With a loud blast, a group of lower-level demons was blown apart. How was this possible? The four-winged barbaric Ox King was stunned as he watched this scene unfold. Why isn't the ceiling summoning technique working? What level are you really at? You can't possibly be at level 39. The four-winged barbaric Ox King growled in anger, releasing a loud bellow like that of a bull. "Die!" He dove from the sky, launching another attack on Rim Jang Uk. Rim Jang Uk muttered, "What I fear most is that this guy won't come down." A dangerous gleam appeared in Rim Jang Uk's eyes as he waited for the four-winged barbaric Ox King to descend. If he didn't come down, Rim Jang Uk wouldn't have a way to deal with him. But now, he was coming down. Rim Jang Uk showed no concern for the four-winged barbaric Ox King's attack as it came for him. Calmly, he ordered, "Soldiers, gather the bodies." The skeletal warriors under Rim Jang Uk's command quickly began collecting the corpses around them. In an instant, hundreds of bodies were hurled toward the four-winged barbaric Ox King. Moreover, each of these corpses belonged to high-level demons above level 60. From the moment the battle began until now, only a few dozen seconds had passed, but more than half of the demon team led by the four-winged barbaric Ox King had already been killed due to their injuries. The four-winged barbaric Ox King ground its shark teeth together, the sound screeching like metal scraping. From deep within its throat, a furious growl echoed, shaking the very space around it. "Eat my punch!" Its roar was like thunder, filled with threat and rage, making the air thick and tense. Every word it spoke felt like a declaration of war, with an overwhelming presence that made the enemy tremble in fear. The four-winged barbaric Ox King swung its fists with lightning speed, landing more than 10 blows every second. While the power of each punch wasn't as strong as before, the sheer number of them was overwhelming. The skeleton armor could only withstand the blows for a second before shattering. Thanks to the movement damage and the summoned lifelink, all the damage was transferred to the Undead Legion, with all the units of the Undead Legion sharing the burden. General Vu Yu continued casting healing skills on the skeletons. As long as the skeletons didn't die, Rim Jang Uk would be safe. Rim Jang Uk stopped repairing the skeleton armor. It was useless, and there was no time. He shouted loudly, "It's time for the evil corpse to fly next to the four-winged barbaric Ox King." This is Rim Jang Uk's most powerful weapon, stronger than the Soul Flame, stronger than the Skeleton Fang. Rim Jang Uk responded to the lightning-fast attacks of the four-winged barbaric Ox King with his corpse explosion skill. Boom, boom, boom. One explosion after another, each faster than the last as the whole space filled with a red glow. The four-winged barbaric Ox King was blasted so hard that he kept groaning in pain, clenching his teeth tightly. The four-winged barbaric Ox King wasn't ready to stop. His stance seemed like he wanted to see who would die first. As a demon king, he couldn't believe he couldn't crush a mere human, even if it was just a clone of himself. He was sure he could beat the human, whose extraordinary abilities hadn't even reached a divine level. Yet, despite landing hundreds of heavy punches on Jang Uk, he didn't hear a single grunt from him. It was as if Jang Uk hadn't even noticed. On the other hand, Jang Uk's skill kept exploding in his own body. Stubbornly, he was determined to make it a fight of you die, I live, shouting, die for me. Another massive punch came crashing down, this time far stronger than the ones before. Jang Uk took hit after hit from the four-winged barbaric Ox King, each blow like a thunderstrike. Left, right, up, down, without a moment's break. His clothes were torn, his body bruised, and the blood dripped from his mouth. Jang Uk still taunted him. Is that all the Demon King can do? Don't you ever eat? Upon hearing this, the four-winged barbaric Ox King lost it, roaring in fury. Die already. The four-winged barbaric Ox King landed a devastating punch, with a shockwave like a meteor crashing down, forcing Jang Uk deep into the overwhelming force. The sound of an earth-shattering explosion echoed, and rocks and debris flew everywhere, while smoke and dust rose high into the air. Jang Uk was no longer visible, buried beneath the full impact of the punch. However, at that moment, a group of corpses shot toward the four-winged barbaric Ox King. You give a little, you get a little back. It's all about give and take. Jang Uk responded, triggering a series of corpse explosions. Another group of low-level demons was blown to pieces. The entire process unfolded at the speed of light. In less than half a second, Jang Uk moved so fast, blocking the powerful attack while launching a fierce counterattack. The four-winged barbaric Ox King was also blown apart, its mouth dripping with red fury. I don't believe I can't kill you. The four-winged barbaric Ox King snarled, still determined to fight to the death with Jang Uk. Another punch was thrown, and even though Jang Uk was crushed beneath the ground, he didn't forget to kick back. Thanks to you, I got so many high-level demons to play with. Getting hurt by your own kin's corpses, that must sting, huh? The palm of Jang Uk's hand flared up with a red orb, a corpse explosion. A series of deafening explosions shook the very earth, tearing apart the silent space. The entire area was bathed in a deathly red glow. Flames erupted violently, illuminating the horrifying scene. In the midst of that fiery nightmare, the agonizing screams of the four-winged barbaric Ox King echoed, filled with hatred and pain. I will kill you for sure. His voice was thick with resentment, but even in the most desperate moment, his murderous intent burned even hotter, making him even more dangerous. Finally, after enduring for over 10 seconds, he was blown to bits in an explosion of smoke. Of course, it was only his clone. Jang Uk, his body torn and battered, let out a long sigh. He had finally defeated the clone of the four-winged barbaric Ox King. Suddenly, he froze, gripped by fear. At the very moment the clone perished, a terrifying surge of energy appeared from the distance. The Demon King's real body was coming, and the energy rapidly approached, becoming more ominous. The Demon King, at this rate, he'd arrive in less than a minute. Despite being on the edge of life and death, Jang Uk didn't waste a second. He used the remaining time to calculate his next move. Before the Demon King arrived, he quickly prepared once more, taking one last desperate shot. Jang Uk activated his skill, Extreme Venomous Testicles, entering the Enhanced Troop state with just a few seconds left. When the Enhanced Troop state is activated, the deadly poison from the testicles becomes unbelievably powerful. Taking advantage of the final moments of the Enhanced Troop skill, Jang Uk unleashed the deadly poison on the Demon King's fortress. The poison exploded again and again. In just a few short seconds, the entire royal fortress was enveloped by the stench of the deadly poison. Countless demons were struck by it, suffering damage every second equivalent to hundreds of thousands of attacks. This effect lasted a total of 60 seconds. The fortress echoed with the agonizing screams of the demons unable to survive under the attack of the poison. Jang Uk was shocked to realize that the destructive power of the deadly poison was, in many ways, even more terrifying than a corpse explosion. Especially with the double support of the curse and enhanced troops, a poison's duration and range were greatly extended. This truly was the sharpest weapon for mass slaughter. Finally, the true form of the four-winged barbaric Ox King arrived, its terrifying energy suppressing the entire city. By this point, the entire royal fortress had been completely transformed, with bodies of demons lying dead everywhere. Tens of thousands of demons fell on the spot. Seeing this, the four-winged barbaric Ox King lost all reason, shouting in fury, I want you to die. A terrifying surge of energy erupted, and in the sky, a massive bull demon ox appeared, about several hundred feet in size, charged forward with a thunderous roar, heading straight for Jang Uk. Jang Uk smiled and muttered to himself, I'm not stupid enough to fight the Demon King. The teleportation Abyss Stone in Rim Jang Uk's hand was quickly activated, minus 36 strategies for survival, and running was the best option. As the four-winged barbaric Ox King rushed toward him, Rim Jang Uk's body instantly shattered like a bubble and vanished. The Bull Demon Ox crashed into the ground, causing the earth to collapse. The Demon King's lair, which had already been severely damaged, completely fell apart under the impact. Inside the small courtyard of Baek Shen's house, Mang and Ban spoke softly, "Kiddo Rim is back." Immediately after, a terrifying killing intent filled the air and the wind howled violently. Mang and Ban's eyes widened as he exchanged a stunned look with Baek Yue-won. Their gazes were full of disbelief. What on earth had this kid done? He'd only gone to the Abyssal world for less than half a day. Why did he now have such overwhelming killing intent?